Good evening, everyone. Tonight's a special night. We're honoring one of Saraville's, one of the great sons of Saraville. So with that, I'm going to ask everyone to stand while the American Legion escorts the son of Saraville to the podium. Larry, you would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Almighty God, grant us the wisdom to make those decisions that are in the best interest of all of our residents. May the Heavenly Father of us all bless those who have given the ultimate sacrifice in service to our nation, and may He watch over and protect our servicemen and women now guarding the gates of freedom. Statement of everyone can sit if they'd like.
Take notice that this regular agenda meeting of the Mayor and Borough Council being held on this 29th day of April 2024 has been posted and advertised in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975.
Roll call.
Councilpersons Balka.
Here.
Halisi. Anoha.
Here.
Roberts. Here. Sinarski.
Here.
Zabrowski.
Very quickly, Don, approval of the prior minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as listed on item 2.
Your motion?
I make the motion.
Second.
Is there a second? Roll call.
Councilpersons Roberts.
Yes.
Balka.
Yes.
Halisi. Sorry, he's not here. Anoha.
Yes.
Sinarski.
Yes.
Zabrowski.
Yes.
Okay.
Would the council please come up to the railing? What's that? Yes. Okay. Let's leave this here. Okay. So Department Commander, it is our honor that you are a resident of Saraville. Proclamation of the Borough of Saraville. Whereas Larry Bishop, a dedicated resident of Saraville, New Jersey, has exemplified unwavering commitment and service to his community and country. And whereas at the 104th Convention of the American Legion held in Wildwood, New Jersey on June 9th, 2023, Commander Bishop was duly elected as the esteemed New Jersey State Commander, a position of great honor and responsibility. And whereas Commander Bishop's profound dedication to his nation is showcased through his valiant service in the United States Army, where he served with distinction from April 24th, 1969 to April 23rd, 1971, including at Fort Myers, Virginia, and Fort Totten, New York. And whereas with an illustrious 35-year membership at Saraville American Legion Post 211, Commander Bishop has consistently demonstrated leadership and commitment to the welfare of veterans, holding various esteemed positions such as Post Commander, County Commander, Department Executive Committeeman, and Department Vice Commander. And whereas Commander Bishop's steadfast advocacy for veterans is encapsulated by his poignant motto for the coming year, "Veterans, we're here for you," reflects his unwavering dedication to the well-being and support of those who have served our nation. Now, therefore, I, Kennedy O'Brien, Mayor of Saraville, New Jersey, do hereby extend praise and appreciation to Commander Larry Bishops on behalf of the Borough and Council in honor of his exceptional service, leadership, and dedication to his fellow veterans and community. Larry, I've known you a very long time, and it has always been my privilege and my honor to call you friend.
Thank you. I thank the Borough Council for this unbelievable award. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Council, if you would. Go ahead. Go ahead, fellas. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wait a minute. We're not done embarrassing you. Donna, you're the council president, if you'd like to say a few words.
Well, I've known you for quite some time now. At the American Legion, you do great work there. And you have always been a great leader, very generous with your time and commitment to everyone in the community. And you are someone who I would like to emulate more as a leader. And I want to thank you for what you do. Just by being you is a model for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dan?
I'd just like to thank you for your service and your continued service because you're still serving us every day in any capacity you can. Thanks.
Thank you.
Christian?
I just want to echo the same sentiments, on behalf of the mayor and the borough. Thank you so much for who you are, your service, and even how that represents for us as a people. It definitely speaks towards longevity. Our mayor was mentioning years that go even beyond my own parents, so I just want to say thank you again, even for who you are, your longevity, and using that to represent who we are as a people to push us forward. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. And I don't know if everybody also knows that Larry was inducted into the Seville War Memorial High School Hall of Fame last Saturday night as well. So the recognition from your community is community-wide, and I just want to personally thank you. When I was chief and we had concerns, or you had concerns, we walked, we saw, we talked, and we got everything straightened out. You are a wonderful steward for the American Legion, and you are very well earned all the awards you're getting tonight. Job well done.
Same thing, Larry. Like I told you before, I'm very, very proud of you. I know you for over 40 years and you're always impressed with all your stories and just love talking to you. And thank you again.
Larry, congratulations. But great job, true role model. So thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we will stand here while the honor guard escorts Larry Bishop.
Ready.
By the way, gentlemen, thank you for your service.
Yes, please. Okay. Just need a motion to accept that proclamation.
Make a motion to accept the proclamation.
Second.
Councilpersons Roberts.
Yes.
Valka.
Yes.
Khaleesi.
Yes.
Enoha.
Yes.
Snarski.
Yes.
Zabrowski.
Yes.
Dad, the second proclamation of the evening. Whereas the annual distribution of Buddy Poppies by the veterans of foreign wars of the United States has been officially recognized and endorsed by government leaders since 1922. And whereas VFW Buddy Poppies are assembled by disabled veterans and the proceeds of this worthy fundraising campaign are used exclusively for the benefits of disabled and needy veterans and the widows and orphans of deceased veterans. And whereas the basic purpose of the annual distribution of Buddy Poppies by the veterans of foreign wars is eloquently reflected in the desire to honor the dead by helping the living. Now therefore, I, Kennedy O'Brien, Mayor of the Borough of Saraville, do hereby urge citizens of this community to recognize the merits of this cause by contributing generously to its support through the purchase of Buddy Poppies on the day set aside for the distribution of these symbols of appreciation for the sacrifices of our honored dead. I urge all patriotic citizens to wear a Buddy Poppy as mute evidence of our gratitude to the men and women of this country who have risked their lives in defense of the freedom which we continue to enjoy as American citizens. In witness thereof, I have caused this proclamation to be issued and the official seal of the borough duly affixed this 29th day of April. So everyone, when you see veterans selling the poppies on the way into ShopRite or the way into a number of shops, your participation is a way that we honor them. So I urge everyone. All right.
Motion to accept that proclamation?
Make a motion to accept the proclamation?
Roll call?
Councilpersons Roberts.
Yes.
Valka.
Yes.
Kolisi.
Yes.
Enoha.
Yes.
Sinarski.
Yes.
Zabrowski. The next proclamation we have is whereas developmental and intellectual disabilities manifest during the formative years of life before the age of 22 and are lifelong in duration, resulting in the continuing need for a variety of services designed to support full inclusion in community life. Whereas it is estimated that approximately 2% of the United States population has an intellectual or developmental disability, which translates to approximately 178,000 children and adults in New Jersey. And the ARC Middlesex County alone serves 333 individuals and their families. And whereas the ARC Middlesex County has worked collaboratively with individuals with developmental and intellectual disabilities, their families, organizations, coalitions, state and local agencies. And whereas the ARC Middlesex County has valued and promoted effective partnerships between community partners, volunteers, staff, and leaderships at all levels. And whereas the ARC Middlesex County is guided in the belief that all people with intellectual and/or developmental disabilities are defined by their own strengths, abilities, and inherent value, not by their disability, and are entitled to the respect, dignity, safety, and security accorded to other members of society and are equal before the law. Whereas the ARC Middlesex County has articulated a positive vision for the future of people with developmental and/or intellectual disabilities and has catalyzed public and private support in the realization of that vision by its unwavering commitment to its individuals, families, community, leadership, staff, and volunteers. And whereas in 75 years, the ARC Middlesex County has led in the area providing support, care, and opportunity with integrity and accountability that reflects quality and excellence in all its work. Now therefore be it resolved that the Borough of Saraville does hereby recognize the ARC Middlesex County in celebrating 75 years of outstanding and dedicated contributions in caregiving and support to empower individuals with developmental and/or intellectual disabilities and their families to live their lives to the fullest. Step.
Make a motion to accept the proclamation?
Second? Roll call?
Councilpersons Roberts.
Yes.
Valka.
Yes.
Kolisi.
Yes.
Enoha.
Yes.
Sinarski.
Yes.
Zabrowski.
Yes.
Okay, you want to hand the microphone to? Okay. So right now, we are going to have a presentation by the Saraville Economic and Redevelopment Agency on pilot programs, how they work, what they are about. And following that presentation, I will have a public comment portion, which will be limited to 5 minutes. And I would ask that people, if they have comments, please just get up once because we're here to do the business of the borough. It's not a question and answer. If you do have questions, We have set up in the borough, people that will answer questions. You call them, and they will, if they don't have the answer immediately, they will get the answer and get back to you. So this is more about learning, understanding. Feel free to comment. If you have additional questions, because it could go on, it's just, we're here to do the business of the borough, and it's not an educational classroom on tonight. So with that, I'm going to I'm going to turn it over to the Director of the Saraville Economic and Redevelopment Agency, Himanshu Shah.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I want to thank you for allowing us to make this presentation in front of you. Before I start, I think the format, I just want to tell format is that Steve Grillo, our commissioner, is going to lead the start, and then I will be doing a presentation on general pilot, and then Brian Morris, our Phoenix advisor, financial advisor, will be talking about specifically about the Trammell Crow pilot arsenal project. Before I do that, I want to recognize the Sarah team. You have a Councilman John Jabrowski, who is a chairman. Councilwoman Donna Roberts is also commissioner. Commissioner Steve Grillo. We have Brian Morris, our financial advisor. We have our attorney, Mike Baker. And we have, I guess everybody knows, Dave Samuel. He's our engineer and our institutional knowledge. I think he's with Sarah from the start to date. And anything we know, we can go back to him and ask him a question. So that's the Sarah team present tonight. And I'm going to turn it over to Steve to kick it off.
Thank you,
Hey,
Himanshu.
Steve, before you start, would you just give a brief recap of your credentials, please?
Sure. I have the best job in politics. I'm a former councilman. I served 3 years with none of you except you, Mayor, which goes to your unending commitment to the town. Over the last 4 years, I've owned my own economic development and small business development consulting firm, and I was lucky enough to have you appoint me, with the advice and consent, of course, of your council members, to serve on SARA, and I was elected by my colleagues to serve as the vice chairman. And so I'm beginning my first year, and it's been thoroughly...
What's that there? Oh. They're broken. Well, we'll see what we can do.
It's live TV.
There you go. Thank you, Jessica. Go ahead,
So
Steve.
I've been involved in economic development and community planning for the last 15 years. I have a master's degree in the field, and I'm thrilled to be back on SARA after a number of years away, and very excited to be doing some of the very important work of the borough as we see an enormous amount of development coming down.
This is expert testimony, not opinion.
I would hope to say so, yes.
Yes, that's very good.
So before Mr. Shah, who took my entire first page of introductions.
You can restart that.
No, not for these folks. I'm not going to waste their time. So I want to at least give everyone on the dais an understanding of what SARA, the Saraville Economic Redevelopment Agency, is and does, and the process and the role of why we are here tonight.
So Sarah was formed in 1997 and operates pursuant to the New Jersey Local Redevelopment and Housing Law. Unlike other land use boards and commissions, such as the Zoning Board or the Planning Board, we are an independent, not-for-profit agency. There are 9 commissioners appointed by the governing body, and Sarah has the authority to participate in various aspects of an area's redevelopment plan. This includes reviewing and recommending agreements for payments in lieu of taxes or pilots, but the final decision on a pilot does remain solely within the discretion of the Borough Council. In 2024, Sarah's taken the direction from the mayor to begin working in a more holistic manner to advance modern economic development policies for the town. This includes visioning workshops to improve the downtown, managing the various redevelopment projects in a more connected manner, and judiciously and critically assessing pilot applications. The project that we're going to discuss this evening, the Arsenal, like most large development projects, has been subject to significant comments from the public. And tonight is an opportunity to present how we have all arrived at this point and what the benefits of a pilot will be. Now I'll invite Himanshu Shah to discuss the pilot agreement in general, and then I'll speak a little bit more about the project in specifics.
Thank you, Steve. Again, Mayor and Council, thank you. As Steve alluded to that, there are comments received by the Sarah as well as the council who has shared with me, and so I'm going to hope that this presentation eventually will clarify some of the concern. So things we have heard: pilot is illegal, pilot is detrimental. Under pilot agreement, developer does not pay any tax. Even I remember something coming in today that he doesn't pay first 5 years tax. Again, we hope that this presentation combined will clear up some of those concerns. Before I start, I want to tell the council, mayor and council, that pilot is a rare tool in a toolbox for municipality provided by state, since under state statute, municipality cannot generate revenue from any other tax. There is no, you cannot enter into business. Rare public-private partnership, there are very rare that allows you to, and so one of the development tools that is provided to you as municipality is the process of redevelopment, which ultimately, results in providing an assistance. First slide. Okay. Overview. A payment in lieu of tax is an amount that property owner pays to the township pursuant to the financial agreement instead of paying taxes conventionally. And what does mean conventionally? It's that you get your traditionally bill in June for 4th quarter of tax payment. That is based on the assessed value assigned by your tax assessor, and then your tax collector ultimately calculates the amount of taxes on each property based on assessed value of individual property. It's each entity, municipality, school, county, open space. They set the tax rate. It all goes to the county. County puts together what's called table of aggregate and comes up with the gross tax for the town, and that's collector then distribute that among each property owner. That's the conventional tax in very quick explanation. Next slide. Purpose of pilot. Pilot can be used to undertake redevelopment projects or municipal sponsor affordable housing project. Generally, we get involved, Rita and Sarah gets involved in project, particularly redevelopment project, where property is blighted. Property has been vacant for years. There are environmental issues, et cetera. And mostly Sarah has, and any redevelopment agency throughout the state gets involved in commercial development. Redevelopment projects are frequently unable to attract private investment without assistance from local government entity in the form of pilot agreements, or in some cases, bond financing, the combination of risk associated with the redevelopment projects and uncertainty of conventional taxes makes a marginal projects difficult to finance. Any developers that's going to invest $100 million, $200 million in redevelopment of a location, he obviously needs outside financing. And so they need help in making sure that their risk is limited, future risk is limited. So the pilot is helpful. Pilots can also be used on a short-term basis to facilitate improvements to existing buildings in order to ease an impact of new taxes resulting from the improvement. This is primarily used in a residential area for improvement, for example, downtown improvement. But generally, our purpose of pilot, the Sarah gets involved, is the redevelopment of commercial project like Arsenal, like what's going on at Riverton. Next slide. Okay. Municipal benefits. Pilots incentives are many. Municipal benefits are allowed for project not otherwise financially feasible. It's not something that municipality will undertake such project, because it requires a large sum of money, and we're not going to be going out and taxing people upfront for a future benefit. Promote redevelopment of area which need it, can provide greater revenue to the municipality than conventional taxes in some cases. That is true. Many of redevelopment places has very low tax currently. With the pilot and with the redevelopment process, they get improvements and they come back on the tax roll. Even as a pilot, which is a tax, they come back on a tax roll. Potential to negotiate better public improvements. You will see this later in facts of Trammell Crow development. There is constant negotiation about them improving road, cleaning up the environmentally problem land. What are developers' benefit? Can be less than a conventional tax. In most cases, that is true. More stability and certainty than conventional tax. Conventional tax is subject to change with the tax rate. With the pilot, you create for next 30 years a program amortization and amount of tax they're going to pay. So they know for next 30 years what tax they expect from this project. What are the mutual benefit? Pilot can support both the project's financial feasibility and the municipality's tax revenue stream. So financially make it feasible and a town start getting a revenue. Market-based taxation. If the market is stronger than expected, municipalities share in the market upside because pilots are collected based on annual gross revenue. So if market is good and they generate more revenue, then they have to pay more in tax because the calculation of pilot, and Brian he's the best explaining that, where you will see that there's a percentage of that revenue is calculated ultimately. Percentage of annual gross revenue grows over time, lower during stabilization early on, supporting project feasibility. So that's the benefit to the developers because you get some incentive upfront, you get stability, and you can carry the project because any new projects, any new business, in the beginning, there's always slow, less revenue. And as it grows, they get stabilized, their costs get stabilized, they have a better profitability. Ongoing transparency, this is critical. Any entity that gets pilot, they have to annually provide audited financial statements to the town. And they have to prove their revenue. Project achieves our the project achieves area redevelopment goals. So we finally, with the, redevelopment process and ultimately giving pilot incentive, we do achieve the redevelopment goals of the area. Now, obviously, everybody knows Trammell Crow was built on a former Hercules site that has an environmental concern. Common misconception, pilot is illegal. Pilot program is approved, and as Steve spoke about it earlier, by the state statute NJSA 48:20. And it is one of the rare tools in toolbox to help municipality stabilize tax and increase development. I explained the toolbox, but I'll tell you there's, state looks at a municipality as a stepchild. They don't want anything. They want to take away everything. I can give you examples, number of different examples, but it just one quickly comes to my mind is that if you recall, we all pay, today we pay energy tax on our utility bill. At one time, it was known as a franchise and gross receipt tax. On your bill from public service, JCP&L, it was added and collected by a utility company, and they would distribute based on the line and the facility in the town. Sayreville was beneficial, was getting a lot of money because of the power plant that JCP&L has here. That's money was directly given to town. State decided, no, we're going to collect all and we're going to redistribute to the town. Very soon, they started siphoning money out of it. They started taking small percentage. It grew to now they have a bigger share of the energy tax receipt. And we're getting very little. Their other incentives were taken away because they could not take energy tax receipt from us because it's built in, basically it's a constitutionally built in, so they couldn't take it away. So they took it away. All other grants that they used to provide, financial assistance, they pretty much took it away from municipality. So that's why I'm saying, and I think state recently started looking at pilot. They want to take it away from you. Pilot reduces tax revenue to other taxing agency, Board of Education, county, under the law. And I think this is critical because I have heard this. The school will not get taxed and it is true partially. But in reality, under the law, Board of Education still gets the same amount of tax it receives on the currently on the land tax. So I believe currently the school is getting about $200,000 on a Hercules land tax. They're going to continue to that and increase based on the overall tax rate of the Board of Education. So they're not losing anything. It is also important to know that this project will not generate any cost to municipality, to Board of Education or to the school. There are no children going from this warehousing project to Board of Education or to school. So they have no cost increase. Their revenue is stable. There's nothing changed. They're going to continue to get that. And I want to tell you something different, which is it's an unwritten rule. And I have spoken to a number of business administrators from Board of Educations. And basically, the trend is that no matter what you do, no matter what Board of Education revenue grows from local tax, they're going to have to continue to increase. State is forcing them to levy Board of Education at least 2% to continue the state aid. And still they lower the state aid. That's going on around the state because state was for a long time, didn't have enough funds. And so they were lowering the funding to school. So, there's myth that if they get more money here, they're going to lower the tax. I don't believe that's going to happen. And this is unwritten tool. There is nobody's writing. You go ask the state legislature, senator, assemblyman, they're not going to tell you. You go ask state bureaucrat, they're not going to tell you. But that's happening in a practical. Since pilots are generally offered to commercial development, there is no cost increase to Board of Education, and I covered that, and commercial property does not generate any new student school. Under the law, pilot guarantees 5% of pilot payment to county. What is annual service charge? An annual service charge, or known as ASC, is a statutory term for pilot under the long-term tax exemptions law. Now, again, I want to emphasize that under the pilot, it is not a tax-free. They still have to pay money to municipality. Annual service charges are a critical tool in the municipal toolkit to effectuate redevelopment of underutilized and unproductive properties. Since 1992, annual service charge have been used statewide to effectuate billions of dollars worth of redevelopment projects. An annual service charge replaces the conventional tax on improvements, and in the case of residential project, may replace the conventional tax on land. But for the annual service charge, the redevelopment project would not be built as designed by the developer and approved by the municipality. There is a control in a redevelopment process, how a project is built. Who is eligible for pilot? Pilot is generally offered to commercial project, except in case of affordable housing project that are guaranteed pilot under the law. So in housing, is the affordable housing project that are mandated for municipality to create. To receive a pilot under the law, a redeveloper must form an urban renewal entity. It's called URE. This type of entity has to be reviewed and approved by the state. So they are state-approved companies. The amount of profit a URE can make is restricted by law. They cannot just make unlimited profit. And this is one of the very important. URE cannot file tax appeals on property or project while paying annual service charge. In conventional tax, commercial entity, if the market collapse, you've seen that in 2008, they can file tax appeal, and you will be responsible paying thousands, if not millions of dollars back in tax appeal refunds. A developer building affordable housing may be eligible for pilot under the Housing, Mortgage, and Financing Agency law. A property owner may be eligible for short-term pilot in the area of need of rehab if the municipality has enacted a program number 8. I'm not going to elaborate, we're not. What is the financial agreement? A financial agreement is an agreement between the municipality and URE that memorialize the terms of an ASC granted to URE on an approved project. That's an agreement that will spell out all the benefit, and you'll hear that under the Trammell Crow, what they have agreed and what they're going to provide. A financial agreement includes following: the amount of ASC to be paid annually, limitation of on profits on URE, requirement that URE submit annual audit to municipality. Here's another disclosure requirement. Municipal charge of annual administrative fee. In case of Sarah, Sarah gets the fee for the operation of Sarah. How are pilot calculated? And I think I'm just going to read through that, but I think Brian can elaborate better on that, or Steve can. Under the long-term exemption law, the project must pay at least 10% of annual gross revenue or 2% of total project costs. So it starts at 10% minimum, but it can be more. And I think in this case, Brian, it's more, correct? Yeah. 95% of the pilot goes to municipality and 5% to the county. Pilots have maximum term of 30 years from completion or 35 years from execution of financial agreement, or 50 years if 2 or more sequential projects are undertaken. But right now, currently, the Trammell Crow pilot is 30 years. I think, Mayor and Council, that concludes my portion. Steve will take over.
Amanchu, before we move on, if you would state your professional credentials and experience, both in municipal finance and in redevelopment.
Yes, Mayor. I've been in municipal government in a financial area for 43 years. Many of you don't know. I think Councilman Balka is aware of it. Some of you know. I was in a position of controller for Sayreville in 1987. I'm a resident of Sayreville since 1986. And you know, like I said, at 43 years in financial administration, I have served as a business administrator in a large municipality, and I'm also served as a chief financial officer and administrator in a redevelopment agency in another municipality before I retired last year.
Thank you. And who is next?
I'm going to lead off from Mr. Morris. Now that we've established what pilots are in generality, we're going to talk specifically about the Arsenal project or Trammell Crow. You'll hear both terms used interchangeably. So the initial redevelopment plan for this site was approved by the Borough Council in 2017. And there have been a number of different actions taken by the council regarding the project since then. In November 2021, Sarah approved the resolution recommending that the council approve the pilot. And as of today, the pilot agreement with the developer has not been approved or put into effect by the Borough Council. That is why we're here this evening. That being said, there are a few items the council should be aware of before Mr. Morris's presentation. We understand and appreciate that this project has been controversial, but in the end, the benefits will outweigh the challenges. In fact, a cooperative and productive relationship with the borough via a pilot will only enhance future financial and development opportunities at the site. Phase 1 of the project is complete and ready for occupancy. The current financial model for the project depends on the borough agreeing to the pilot that Mr. Morris will describe in detail. There's an anticipated second phase, which will include a roadway to alleviate truck congestion and will positively benefit residents, infrastructure, and the environment. The discussion tonight, though, is focused on the pilot for Phase 1 only. The pilot's financial benefits for the borough will significantly exceed what the normal tax revenue would produce, as described by Mr. Shah. It is scheduled for 30 years, which includes an annual land tax payment based on a conventional assessment value, today approximately $390,000, and an additional pilot payment structure, which is calculated on an annual basis starting in year 1. This is projected to be $1.7 million today and subject to increase based on occupancy and project value. Finally, let me make this clear as well. The current tax percentage collected from this property for the school system will remain unchanged, and there will be zero cost increase to the school system because this is a commercial development, not residential. As Mr. Shah noted, 95% of the revenues generated via this pilot will be used to invest in municipal services such as public safety, roads, public works, parks, and other infrastructure. This includes an additional $1 million upfront lump sum payment at the execution of the final agreement that you're considering, which will be used for community facility improvements. Additionally, the project will pay 2.5% of their total tax assessment towards the borough's Affordable Housing Trust Fund. With that, I'll now invite Mr. Morris to speak about the financial details of the arrangement.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for having me this evening. My name is Brian Morris with Phoenix Advisors. We are the borough's municipal advisor. We work with a number of entities throughout the state, municipal, county, what have you. We specialize in financial consulting, assistance with municipal bond debt issuance, as well as redevelopment. Our firm's been in existence for about 20 years, and all the principals of the firm have significantly more experience than that in the municipal space. So we were engaged by the borough and agency to review the developer's pilot proposal, prepare an independent financial review of the project, analyze the impact to the borough, and help negotiate favorable financial terms in the financial agreement that you have that you're considering. So as mentioned, the project is a non-residential commercial warehouse redevelopment on Callahan Boulevard in the Hercules redevelopment area. The total cost of the project is $220 million. This is the first phase of a larger development known as the Arsenal Trade Center, to be constructed on the full 500-acre parcel. This 73-acre section was underutilized and currently generates only $390,000 in total taxes, which are split between the borough at 28%, the county at 16%, and the school at 56%. As was noted before, that translates in dollars to roughly $110,000 to the borough, about $62,000 to the county, and $220,000 to the school district. The project will include 3 warehouse buildings totaling nearly 1.1 million square feet of Class A industrial space, warehouse space. And the developer, as mentioned by Himanshu, is investing nearly $20 million in on-site infrastructure, including environmental cleanup, utility upgrades, intersection and road improvements, and solar efficiencies. With respect to the proposed pilot, as was mentioned, it's for a term of 30 years, and it's based on the greater of 3 calculations. When we negotiate these on behalf of our clients, we try to institute a 3-prong approach here to make sure that the borough is protected, both on the downside if the developer's revenues are not quite as high as expected, also on the upside so that the borough shares in the success if the project does even better than anticipated, and also, per the statute, phase in a percentage of conventional taxes over time. So the 3 calculations are based on a percent of their annual gross revenue, which ranges from 11% in year 1 up to 16% in year 30, generally increasing by 1% every 5 years. As Himanshu mentioned, the statute calls for a minimum of 10% of annual gross revenue. The second calculation is $1.95 per leasable square foot, escalating at 3% per year. As I mentioned, this is an important metric because if revenues are less than expected, or the property does not fully lease up, that serves as a valuable minimum threshold for the borough. And then finally, the pilot is subject to conventional tax phase-ins ranging from 20% to 80% that are instituted over the 30-year term. So again, as was mentioned, just to reiterate, under the pilot, the borough, school district, and county still receive the land tax payments that are about $390,000 per year, split just like any conventional tax would be. And then the pilot is on the improvement portion, of which 95% goes to the borough and 5% to the county. In addition, just to stress, we negotiated a $1 million lump upfront sum to be paid to the borough for various facility improvements. This slide shows a sample cash flow of the pilot revenue for year 1 and then also for the 30-year total. So as you can see, the annual service charge, as Himanshu explained, is $2.1 million. The borough is also entitled to a 2% administrative fee. 5% of the pilot must be paid to the county per state statute. And then the entities are entitled to that land tax credit since they're also getting paid the land taxes separately. That says $405 as opposed to $390 just because it's escalated to project year 1. So that results in a $1.65 million payment to the borough. And of course, as I mentioned, the borough would still collect its share of the land taxes, which is about $115,000, for a total net revenue of $1.76 million in year 1. Those figures all increase over the 30-year period, as I mentioned, based on those 3 calculations. So in total, the net revenue projected to the borough over this agreement is nearly $100 million, which is orders of magnitude higher than the borough would currently collect from the site in its current condition. Again, just to stress, if the developer's revenue, since it's based on the revenue, one of the calculations, if it increases beyond these expectations, the borough would share in that success and the pilot would be increased. And then again, just to reiterate, the pilot is just on the improvement portion which goes 95% to the borough, and the land taxes are still paid currently as they currently are being paid. So no taxing unit today would receive less than they're receiving prior to the pilot. So overall, the revenue is just significantly in excess, 6 times what the property is currently generating, and over 15 times what the borough alone receives from the property. We had a lengthy negotiation with the developer. They came in with a lower offer through multiple rounds of negotiations. We increased the revenue to what you see today. Overall, more than a $15 million increase in the revenue from their initial offer, in addition to that $1 million upfront payment. So I can pause there if would like to have any closing remarks or any questions.
I just want to add one thing interesting about the Trammell Crow project. So I have a copy of an email communication between your tax assessor and and the Trammell Crow folks. And there was a partial assessment established in 2023. And when you extend it to the full assessment, this is unusual, so bear with me. It looks like that gross tax under conventional tax is about $1.5 million. As Brian indicated, under the pilot, we're almost getting a $1.8 million. So under this particular negotiation, it seems to me the conventional tax is lower than a pilot agreement. Now, why I say that with a caution, because this is unusual. It's not the case in most situation, but it is in this situation. And I think even Brian indicated to me early on, and I believe he had commitment from Trammell Crow that they will stay with the pilot agreement and pay the higher amount.
When you conclude here, there are several other people that I've asked to give testimony, so I will bring them up. They're not here to comment, they're here to give testimony. So when it's appropriate. No? Okay. If you'd put do we have a microphone up there? Don, if you would come forward. Don. You. Yes. Ed. Your brother was Don, you're Ed. Yeah. Where do you want me, Mayor? Right here at the podium, and again, if you would state your name and where you're from and your working credentials, please.
Yeah, I'm Edward Sofield. I'm from the Middlesex County Building Trades. I'm here to represent thousands of building trades workers and their families. My credentials are chairman of the executive board with the IBEW, 50 years experience with the IBEW. I have 8 teaching certificates. I have a master's degrees from Rutgers. I represent the building trades. I'm here to talk about this pilot project.
Please.
Okay.
You need to speak.
Okay, that's better. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to get right to the heart of this thing here. This is a 30-year deal they're talking about. It's only one project for 3 warehouses. It's going to be all union building trades. It's going to supply jobs for the people in Sayreville and Middlesex County that need the work and their families. If you vote yes for this, $54 million of extra tax revenue will go to the town, borough of Sayreville. $54 million. No matter how you vote, the $390 million worth of money that they talked about on the land tax is always going to be there. It's always going to go to the Board of Education. It's always going to go to the county, and it's always going to go to the Board of Sayreville. Nothing changes with the tax rate for land value. However, with this additional redevelopment, you're going to pick up $54 million worth of money in taxes that's going to go for improvements and lower taxes for the people in Sayreville. I've been in construction 50 years. I was at DuPont and Hercules with 100 electricians, 100 plumbers, supporting their families. There is nothing now but 3 warehouses in Sayreville. In the other towns of Woodbridge, where I come from, Perth Amboy, and New Brunswick, and Carteret, we're going crazy. We're buying land in Woodbridge for $11 million. We're selling it to the Morris Company for $54 million, and then we're getting donations for $10 million worth of land so we can revitalize School 4 and 5 in Avenel. We're going to revitalize those schools with money from this pilot project. The people in Sayreville need jobs. When I grew up, Sayreville was where I made most of my money. Hercules, DuPont, titanium pigment, the C1 powerhouse. It's not there anymore. It's not there. You guys need to get on the bandwagon and get this thing started so we can revitalize Sayreville. Okay? I got a couple notes here. This is undeveloped wasteland we're talking about. Like I said, the county, the school board, and Sayreville will pick up $390,000 worth of taxes. If you implement this and say yes, you're going to pick up $54 million right away. If you don't say yes, you lose the $54 million. It's not there. It's gone. The people need the $54 million, and they need the jobs, and the construction workers need the jobs, and we need to move on. I want to talk about a job in Woodbridge. We had a job when we had these professional protesters come into the town and try to tell us how we're going to run our town, Sayreville or Woodbridge or Perth Amboy or New Brunswick. We had a powerhouse job that was going to provide jobs for 1,000 people. It was going to be a 3-year project. We were going to revitalize the most toxic waste site in Caseby and build a powerhouse so you guys could have all 99% efficient, revitalize the electricity so that you guys could have green energy all over the place and shut down a bad power plant. It was a no downside. There was no downside to it. Like I see, there's no downside to this project. There is no downside. Sayreville needs to live. They need to move on. What else could I say? Well, there's a lot of stuff I could say here about this, but what else could I say? Move. Yeah, we're building all kinds of facilities all over the state, especially in New Brunswick, Perth Amboy, and Woodbridge. Please, Sayreville, get on the stick, okay? That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Bob Davis. Bob, if you'd come up, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Bob Davis. I'm a resident of Sayreville for 40 some odd years. As far as this pilot program goes, I represent 6,000 to 8,000 members, the operating engineers. And we cover the whole state of New Jersey. I deal with these pilot programs in other municipalities, and this is how the municipalities grow. There's no downside to this. You just heard all the numbers. It's the reality. And what the Sayreville could turn into, if we use this, it'll be amazing. So it's really simple. The numbers don't lie. It'll put residents, I have 3 of my members in the back of the room right now that live in Sayreville. One of them worked on the project, okay? And we spend our money in Sayreville, and that's what it's all about. It's for the people of Sayreville, and it'll do a good thing for us.
Thank you, Bob. Gentleman in the back, I know you, did you want to make a comment? Because okay. All right, with that, Himanshu, are there other people giving testimony for Sarah about a pilot? Okay. Okay, well, we can have comments. It's not a Q&A portion. So I'm going to go ladies first. Any comments from the ladies? All right. Yes, ma'am. Please come up. You state your name and address, please.
Evelyn Smith, 124 Kendall Drive. First of all, the thing about how there was, no bad thing that came out of this, 7,000 plus trees were cut down. Do you know what trees do? They give us oxygen. Okay, they give us shade. They give us protection from high winds like we've been having recently that people are having branches come off their trees because the winds are so bad, because all of these trees are being taken down. They also give places for animals to live. And animals are kind of important. You know, without them, if we treated animals the way, if we treated people the way we treat animals, people would be very upset, okay? Because we treat animals like crap. Excuse me. The other thing is related to trees. Why is it that every single piece of land in our town has to be cleared and built on? What is wrong with trees? What is wrong with leaving areas of forest? They're beneficial to us. They're beneficial to animals. They're beneficial to people. They are beneficial to the air quality. This is ridiculous. This whole, I'm against this whole SERA thing, because all it is let's find something that we can cut down some trees and put something else up. And that's, you know, that's not what a small town's supposed to be. And we are still a small town, okay? We are supposed to be a residential area, a suburban area where people come and they raise families and they have places where they can go hiking in the woods. They can play sports. But we're tearing all of them down and putting up buildings. Pave paradise, put up a parking lot. Okay? I think it's ridiculous that every place that we have an open space, even if it's not actually open, it's full of trees, so it's not open, you know, that we have to build on. Why? Why? Who's getting all that money from that? Huh? Who's getting that? Because somebody's getting the money for selling off our land.
Yeah, come on up, Demi. Okay.
Hello, everyone. Demetra Wagner, 7 Roma Street. I'm also your Sayreville GOP committee woman in District 1. I would just like to make a comment. I love animals too, and I love trees, but I find it ironic that someone who supports the murder of children in the womb cares about wild animals. I'm all about the earth. I'm all about, excuse me, you had your 5 minutes and now I'm talking. You know, this is a democracy, even though you might not think it is. Thank you very much.
They'll
I
either
have
be
every
order
right
or
to
I'll clear
speak.
the room.
I have every
I
right
will
to.
clear the room. I will
Would you
clear
like
the
to take
room,
my
Evelyn.
5 minutes? Would you like my 5 minutes too?
Demi,
Would you?
Demi, come.
Thank you. I would like to say that I do support this because I moved here and bought a house in 1997. My taxes were $1,700. Now they're almost $9,000. My husband and I do not intend to retire in Sayreville. We're not sure what we're going to go, where we're going to go, what we're going to do. But I was conceived here in Jersey, and I wanted to lay my bones in Jersey. But I cannot do that in a blue state. Okay, I will probably be forced to move to Pennsylvania, where my daughter and my son-in-law are going to be residing as they are closing a home. Okay, and like Murphy said, if New Jersey's too expensive, don't let the door hit you with the good Lord split you. Okay, but I love the people of Sayreville. And I'm proud to be a resident of Sayreville. And I want to retire here in Sayreville. I don't want to move because I can't live here because it's a blue state, okay? And this is basic economics. It's basic math. And I love trees just like the next person. And I love animals like the next person. But we cannot dictate what people do with their private property, okay? Just like no one can come and dictate how many plants or what plants I can put on my, and so forth, okay? And I do agree with this lady that we are building left and right in Sayreville, and sometimes I feel like it's gonna turn into the Jetsons and someone's gonna build on top of me someday. And I do agree, when I moved here in '95, I mean, It's just insane. But what can you do about it? You can't stop people from developing land that they own. It's just a normal fact of life. Do I think it's overcrowded? Yes. Do I think there's a lot of traffic? Yes. But we need real solutions and not fantasy opinions. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, Demi. Okay, this is the public portion. The attorney said you forgot to say that, Mayor. This is the public portion. Jim, well, wait a minute. Let me see if the ladies are done. Are there? Yes, ma'am.
Just make sure that was clear. So anybody who wants to comment on this ordinance, this is your opportunity to do that. There'll be a public session for other topics later in the meeting, but if you want to comment on this ordinance before it's voted on, now is the time to do that.
Ma'am, if you'd state your name and address, please.
Sure. Good evening. Sharon Wells, 11 Hendricks Court.
What's your,
11 Hendricks Court. Hendricks Court. So I was just wondering, and I know you can't answer the questions. I just want to put them out there and see if maybe.
it's comments.
Okay. I understand. So I understand that there's supposed to be an audit yearly, and that is how they determine how much money the town gets. So who's going to ensure that that is done, and what is the recourse if they don't supply their financial records? Okay. So the area was for a pilot is supposed to be determined blighted or underdeveloped or whatever. So that area, I'm assuming, was determined to be that. How did we try to get anyone to buy it under normal circumstances as opposed to just going pilot? I know you can't answer, just make comments. And was it a thing where the current, I wasn't clear, is the current occupant, is it the same company that developed the first building? And if it is, did they do a pilot program for that?
That's what the ordinance is tonight. the
So
first
that
building.
it's the same company? Got it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Wait a minute. Are there any other ladies who would like to speak? Mary?
Mary Novak, 1 Scarlet Drive. It's taller than I remembered. I'm not up here to knock pilots. I believe in pilots. I knew it can do a lot for the town. And also, the town is not developing it. This property doesn't belong to us. If we could have bought it, but that was never going to happen. I voted no on this pilot back in October. I want to state my reason. It had nothing to do with, I think in the long run, this is going to be great for the entire town, including the school board. I wish this wasn't 30 years, maybe 20 years would probably be a little better. My main opposition to this is an application should be presented to the council. Now, when I was on Sarah, I voted that this should come to the council. I was in favor of it. But at no time after that did the town receive an application. It wasn't until a year and a half after supposedly the application was sent to the town asking for this, that they questioned whatever happened to it. This is a multi-billion-dollar corporation, and it took them a year and a half to question. I never saw the application as a council person. The past mayor never saw the application. The clerks in the clerk's office never saw this application, did not sign for this application. It was supposed to have been signed for when it was received in the town. That didn't happen. So to me, this did not follow the proper procedure where the application should have been sent before they ever went vertical. They continued to build and never questioned why the council was not addressing this application. Had they done that, we might have been able to, save a lot of problems, because this technically should have been granted. This should have been reviewed. This should have been granted 2 years ago. And in the meantime, have we gotten any taxes other than the property taxes? If they don't have a pilot and they've been building and there's buildings out there, have those buildings been taxed the past 2 years? Because I know there were buildings there prior that were being taxed, and the school board was getting a percentage of that tax on those buildings when they tore them down, that stopped. So in effect, the school board is actually getting less. I do believe in the long run, this is going to be good. I know this is probably going to pass. I don't agree with it. I don't think it's right. But at the same time, maybe you could consider a shorter term, maybe, 20 years instead of 30. And then we could review, we can review it and extend it at any time. Thank you.
Are there any other ladies? Any other ladies? All right, Jim, you had your hand up?
Thank you, Mayor. Jim Robinson, Burrell Square in Parlin. First, want a clarification, Mayor. When they made a presentation, it was a presentation on pilots in general. This is not on the agenda. The first item on the agenda is the cable TV. There was no motion on this pilot, so I don't know how this is the public hearing on the Trammell Crow pilot. I took notes. A lot of people obviously knew that they were making a presentation tonight, a general presentation. I took notes on that, but I also have some notes on the pilot. So I want to clarify that. How can this be a public hearing on the ordinance that nobody moved? Now, I'm going to suggest that what you do is make this public hearing on Sarah's presentation, which is what the mayor said originally. And that's what I'm prepared to speak to. Okay, because we can't ask questions. I'm going to make statements, and if they are incorrect, and I just jotted these down in the back while they were speaking on the back piece of paper here. If they're incorrect, somebody can correct me, and I'm talking about the improvements, not the land, $400,000, that's pittance. We don't want to talk about this. But the town as a whole, over 30 years, the town, meaning the Board of Education and the borough, will get millions less. And I just did a quick calculation on what Himanshu said, and I think that comes to about $24 million less for the Board of Education over 30 years. That's the first thing. Requiring them to pay into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, they have to do that regardless of a pilot. We passed that a few years ago because of the debacle with the affordable housing. So everybody has to do that. If I'm incorrect, please correct me. If school taxes go up, those paying the school property taxes will pay the increase. Those with a pilot will not. And that will include the veterans that you honored earlier tonight. That will include the seniors that are here in the audience. They will pay more. The people paying the pilot will not. Many pilots give 25% of the pilot money, or many towns give 25% of the pilot money to the Board of Education. This pilot plan gives zero to the Board of Education. This cheats our children, our future that we talked about. Pilots are almost always granted before a project is constructed. If I'm incorrect there, somebody correct me, but I've done some research on this, as you know. I agree pilots are an effective way to attract development to a town, the development that a town wants that otherwise would not come to the town. As you know, Mayor, I sell commercial real estate. I probably get 4 calls a week from developers who want to construct warehouses. You don't have to offer a pilot to bring in a warehouse. You offer pilots when you want to clean up the NL site, when you want to clean up the site on Journey Mill Road that would never be developed, when you want something that will benefit the town, not something that's going to just knock down 7,500 trees and bring hundreds of tractor trailers to town. This is already built. I support what the gentleman said about bringing union construction jobs to Sayreville. We did that. We did that. These are built. That's why pilots are granted before a project is built. Not only are they built, Trammell Crow got their funding. They had a bank that said, yeah, this project will work. You can do this. Mr. Mealy, in October of 2023, came to this very podium, this very microphone, and said, those projects are built. If we don't get the pilot, We will live with it. And he was right. They don't need the pilot for this project. Our former tax assessor who wrote that email, he opposed this pilot. He made it known in conversations. He didn't think this was a good deal for a town. This is a guy that served the town loyally for 40-some years that you lauded a few months ago when he retired. He opposed this pilot. He didn't oppose all pilots. He doesn't oppose pilots in general. Neither do I. As Mrs. Novak said, some pilots are a good thing. When you have a situation where but for a pilot, something that is necessary won't be built, then you should have a pilot. These are built. Those men and women got the jobs. They're standing already. And lastly, I just find it unusual. This was defeated in October of 2023. We are in court. The borough attorney is in court defending the denial of the pilot, and the mayor issues a letter saying he supports the pilot. And the interesting thing about that letter, I don't know who wrote that letter, but they used a template, I guess, because it said they intend to build 3 warehouses. Well, that's the template you would use normally, because normally those letters are written before warehouses are built. These are built. They don't need the pilot. I appreciate the jobs, but they're built. They're going to open. Those jobs are going to be there. Truckers are going to drive there. Folks are going to staff those warehouses. Those jobs will be there because they're already built. They have signs up. They're advertising. They're looking for tenants. So it's not a question of denying jobs. It's a question of denying $24 million to the Board of Education. That's what it's a question of. So thank you very much.
Okay, yes.
Mike Pinkowitz, 32 Becker Drive. Last time I was up here, I spoke my piece about pilots using Red Oak as an example. 3 things that I pointed out last time. Numbers don't lie. Pilots don't have to be 30 years, and pilots should not equal profit. So, first question, and I think I may have the answer to this, or the first comment. The financial documents in the pilot agreements show year 1 of the pilot as 2022. I would think, since this resolution and this ordinance are coming forward in 2024, that application should have been updated with to start with financials beginning in 2024. Now, right from the agreement, it says that the property, land, and improvements, $40,750,000. So I use that number as a basis for a lot of calculations, and I've had a copy of this since April 16th, when Zach was kind enough to email it to me. Didn't answer any of my other questions, but that's okay. Based off of the percentages from my tax bill, this property should be paying $2.2 million in taxes, but their pilot payment in year 1 is $1.6 million. That is a difference of $567,000. I don't understand how we're being told that the payment is more than what taxes would be. That doesn't make any sense. Based off of those numbers, that's 74.89%. That's lower than the 85% that was lauded during conversations with Kennedy. And that number goes down year after year. The pilot payments only go up 2.5% year over year. And this is right from the financial document. Based from 2010, average property tax increase on my house was 3.12%. There's a gap. So what does that mean? That means by year 20, instead of being at 85%, you're going to be at 66%. By year 30, they're only paying 63%. The numbers are going the wrong way. Numbers don't lie. Also, according to the documents, based off of the payment schedule, the payments listed in the documents, they're saying that in year 16 of the agreement, this complex will be profitable. Why are we giving them a 30-year pilot? Pilots should not equal profit. Some of you looked at me funny when I made that statement last time, but here we are. A company like Trammell Crow had a revenue of $840 million in 2023. If there's any operating loss on a property, they're taking that as a write-off. They're not losing money if they don't get this pilot. There's no pain. That tax savings equates to less than 0.1% of their pilot. This is not going to make or break them. But getting back to the school issue, year one, based off of the numbers and what they're paying, $1.233 million does not go to the schools. I'm not talking about the little piece from the land tax that we're already getting. I'm talking specifically about this pilot payment. And as was pointed out, the school budget is going to continue to increase. There is a bill going through that came out of Senate committee in the state this week that school tax funding may not be, if this passes into law, the 2% cap is gone. If a district has lost funding at any time over the last 5 years, state funding, they can then increase school taxes at will, no referendum, 9.9%. That may not have anything to do with this decision, but you need to be conscious of this, because as the school budget goes up, if the pilot is not contributing to school payments, if property is like this, if we don't get ratables, this is not a ratable. If we don't get ratables in town, who covers that difference when the school budget goes up? Taxpayers like me.
1 minute, Mike.
Okay. I'm going to use that minute then. I would like to ask the question, because this was one of my questions to the town attorney. Since we are basing all of our growth off of Woodbridge, and you were advised Woodbridge, I'd like to point out when Woodbridge has a second reading for an ordinance like this, the 5-minute limit is suspended. Questions are asked and answered. If we are not doing that, I'd like to know specifically what ordinance is forbidding it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ken?
Thank you, Mayor. Ken Olszewski, 108 North Edward Street. I want to compliment the people who made the presentation tonight, from Sarah and those others. To me, it was probably one of the greatest marketing presentations since the greatest marketing people, the tobacco companies, got everybody smoking from the 50s to the 90s. So it was a really good presentation. And I like the way we throw all these numbers out and expect the public to be able to make an opinion right before you vote tonight. That seems a little bit silly to me. Where were all these numbers before? And how many bites at the apple does Trammell Crow get for a pilot? I sat here when this governing body rejected a pilot last year for them. Well, does this go on? If we reject it tonight, they try another 3 months from now, another 6 months from now? Look, there are many people in this town that think that a tax break to a multi-billion-dollar corporation is basically a Robin Hood in reverse. It's stealing from the poor taxpayers of Saraville, and giving the money to a multi-billion-dollar corporation. And it's fine for some people to come from other towns and talk about things, but I can trump most of them because I was born and raised in this town, so there aren't too many more people that can tell me about what's going on in Saraville. And there's not too many more people can tell me about how governing bodies run, because I sat on the Middlesex County Utilities Authority as a commissioner for 5 years. Very trying time, not from their fault, because the federal government had banned ocean dumping of sludge so bad that grandchildren couldn't even visit their grandparents in Melrose because they got sick going from the car to their house. So it was a trying time. no one ever there tried, and I would have screamed if they did, to say, oh, no, you can't ask any questions like the policy that we decided on here 6 or 8 weeks ago. I attended probably 25 freeholder meetings fighting the mass burn incinerator. Very contentious. Great people from Sayreville, Julian Capek, Vivian Apesto, both people have passed on. Susan Blummick from Old Bridge. We went there meeting after meeting. You know what? They treated, when we walked in, you could see their heads drop when they saw us, but they treated us with respect, and nobody said, oh no, we don't answer questions. So we're living in a municipality here where all of a sudden, we don't answer questions. I don't know of any other place that's done that. And I don't know who decided that here. Our out-of-town attorney? Mayor, was it you who said for 20 years, I only voted, there's a tie. I never heard a vote of these people on this thing about they don't answer questions. So I'd like to know about that. You know, when Warren Harding, president, died, and Calvin Coolidge, the vice president, became president, he never talked much, and they named him Silent Cal. I think it might be time to start calling our council people Silent Cal, because they sit up here, they're elected by the people, and you can't stop them from speaking, and they should be speaking on behalf of the residents of this town. So let me tell you something else before I know I have to sit down. The mayor used to call the police up here to shut us down. I don't know if he still does, but I don't want the police. I actually love the police coming because they're protecting me. Some screwball could come in here and attack me. I remember the years where Carteret, the mayor, used to jump over the rail and start fighting with people in the audience. So I'm not against the police coming, but I am certainly against people who are here for business of the borough and who aren't disrupting, who aren't out of line, to have the police come and escort them to their seat. What a town we're living in. And again, nobody can tell me, because I've been here for over 80 years, you're going to tell me what goes on in Woodbridge or what goes on in another town. Let me tell you some of the towns that are fighting pilots. West Windsor, Franklin, Hillsborough, Piscataway, Robbinsville, Phillipsburg. They're fighting pilots. They're fighting mega warehouses.
Thank you, Ken.
Let me just finish, Mayor, for another minute. You let these other people go on and on. Is there only things that you like that you let here?
Thank you, Ken.
Yeah, you only let people who
Thank you,
who
Ken.
like.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you. Bill?
Thank you, Mayor. Bill Henry, Orchard Street. I'm reading my comments tonight because I want to be as accurate as possible from what has happened in the past. During the October 10th meeting, this pilot was defeated 5-0 with 1 abstention. Councilmember Roberts abstained from the vote because she wanted the public to see the confidential, unredacted pilot report, which still we haven't seen yet, and have an informal public discussion. She was concerned that the public did not have the opportunity to voice their opinion, and she abstained from the vote. Councilmember Zabrowski said the pilot did not meet the criteria for one. The property does not need any help and was very marketable right from the beginning. He agreed with the Councilmember Roberts and said our community has a right to know the facts, but in this case, it's obvious, and he voted no. He also stated that he appreciated the council for denying the pilot. After the vote, Joe Cups, our tax assessor, thanked the council for denying it and said that this property did not need a pilot. He wrote many letters to the council saying the reasons why. He said when he looked at the redacted report, he was able to make some observations. First, he was concerned that he, as a tax assessor, received a redacted report. And he said, what are they trying to hide? Second, he was able to verify that the land assessments were close to what he thought the three warehouses would be assessed at. But, I mean, the land assessment was close to what it should be assessed at. But he said the three warehouses were assessed at using equalized numbers. He said the asset value could be as low as 40% of what it should be. As an example, he looked at a county report using the equalized formula. And when he brought it to the county's attention, they had a quick fix and the assessment went up by more than 2.5 times. Third, he said the report needed substantial changes. Under a pilot, as we spoke about, the school system receives no money except for what the property taxes bring in. This could be tens of millions of dollars to the school system in Sayreville. I have a report showing that the school mathematics score is 16.3% below the state average. I mean, well below the state average. It's at 16.3%. And the English score is 54.3%, just meeting the state average. Ask yourself who needs the money more, a multi-billion-dollar corporation or the children and the taxpayers of Sayreville. They can increase their rents and to their tenants and lose no money. Last year, I introduced myself to Andrew Milley, VP of the company, and he told me that he did not care if he got the pilot. Ask yourself another question. Why is the pilot brought up again when it was voted down 5-0 with 1 abstention? Is the mayor doing a multi-million-dollar favor for a company? Hopefully, we can take the council's president's word and have the confidential, unredacted report released to the public and have an informed, open discussion. Also, I suggest that having the pilot report redone, not using equalized numbers. One last thing. The mayor runs the meetings and gets the information. The council controls the meetings. You can vote right now to end the meeting right now. The mayor can't. And so make sure that you understand what you're voting on and you have the correct information. Don't let the mayor silence you. You have the right to answer our questions. And don't say that you don't have that right. And just do what's best for Sayreville and not for big multi-billion-dollar corporations. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Any other comments? Yes, sir. If you'd state your name and the street you live on, please.
Joe DeRold, 96 North Edward Street. I had a lot to say, but actually Jim and I think Mike kind of said a lot of what I was going to say, but my real concern is about the school system. Saying that the Board of Ed is not going to lose money because the land tax is going to be the same is true, but they're not going to get anything on the improvements. And just being conservative, it's at least $1 million a year, and it's going to go up every year. And I don't know if anyone has noticed or not, but there's a lot of new apartments being built in Sayreville, which means a lot of kids, which means more teachers, maybe a new school system, a new school. And I think what's going to happen is that our taxes are going to go up, even though it looks like a good deal for the town because they're getting 95% of the revenue. But I think in the long run, it's a bad deal for the town. So I know, Mr. Mayor, you go to the Bomber football games. I see you there. You're a big supporter of the schools. And I think that the right thing to do is to vote no. Thank you.
Are there any other comments? Bob? Bob Duffy, 111 Merritt Avenue. My comment is, I'm a little skeptical on this whole process. Like the other gentlemen say, there was a vote and I was here and it was knocked down. But if you look around, I'm talking to the council, Mayor. If you look around and drive around, everywhere you see a warehouse, there's a major road right there. Okay? Number two, they put it in the center of a town, the company. Number three, they went to the county first, and the county referred them down here. We had this problem for a couple of years ago with someone that passed away. And now we're back in that same groove. And I don't think it's on, I'll give you, I've been a retired Teamster. I was a truck driver, 18-wheeler, local driver for 32 years. I've been in so many warehouses, it's ridiculous. There is no way that this warehouse, where they are going to make money unless they charge a lot of money, because the trucking getting in and coming out is going to take time. And if you notice around town, the county is spending a lot of money to accommodate this company. They're putting an extra lane on the bridge on Route 9. They widened Bordentown Avenue in Cheesequake. I'm telling you, once the trucking companies find out they can't go in and pick up a load and get out in 20 minutes, they ain't gonna go there anymore because they don't get paid sitting in traffic. So it's skeptical to me why this company is pushing so hard for this pilot. Thank you, council. Thank you. Are there any other comments? Yes, Bob?
Bob Egan, 43 Elizabeth Street. The gentleman talked about union jobs and that. Well, I can probably guarantee you there won't be a union job in those warehouses, and they'll probably only pay a couple of dollars if you're lucky over minimum wage, for one thing. One thing I don't get why it's coming back again. The sign on the billboards coming into Saraville say, where the dead comes back to life again. It was turned down. What brings it back to life again after it was turned down by the former council? And that's about all I have to say.
Thank you, Bob. Are there any other comments? Yes, sir. Whose phone?
Steve Levinson, 5 Telegraph Lane. And I just kind of wrote some things down, and if I heard him correctly, he said the conventional tax would be $1.5 million in year one after the improvements. And yet in year one, the town's going to get 1.7 million. So it's actually better for the town to have the pilot in year one. And he also pointed out that the school will still get its fair share. But if the conventional tax is 1.5 million, the school portion will go up to $840,000. So you take out the $220,000 they're paying, that means the school is losing $620,000 a year for every year of this pilot. You times that by 30, that's $18,600,000 that the school is losing. And yes, if these numbers are correct and accurate, it's not money the borough's losing, because the borough's getting that money if the 1.7 and the 1.5 are accurate. So if the borough's getting it and keeping it and the school is not getting it. And then if the school property taxes need to go up, is the borough willing to give some of this money to the school to not raise our school portion of our property taxes? Because if these numbers are right, borough's getting it already. They shouldn't come back to me and ask me to give more because you're already getting the money. That was just my observation.
Thank you, Steve. Are there any other comments? Don, you made your comments. No, you got to come up. Come on up, Don. You gave testimony. Now you're giving your comment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The fellow that just was up here just said that these 3 new warehouses would not be union jobs. Well, I want to correct it because the last 3 jobs in Hercules and DuPont area were 100% union, 100% PLA, project labor agreements that we ensure the people in the community get the jobs. And we did it there, and there's going to be a project labor agreement on those 3 jobs. And number 2, if you don't go for this motion and say yes, the town, the people of Sayreville will lose $54 million. I don't care about any of these figures they're talking about. The board and the county, the board and the county and the borough of Sayreville is going to get their school money. And there's going to be $54 million worth of money for improvements in Sayreville, which includes the roads, the water system, which is a catastrophe right now, and it has to be addressed right away. And this is only a start. Pilots are great, like everybody kind of said, they're great, and they can't be misused. You know, for the benefit of the people, you got to have a start here. You got to start. You got to have some construction in Sayreville. We're doing it all through the county. You got to start here. If you don't believe you're going to lose $54 million, if you don't believe you're going to lose $50 million, ask the business administrator, and he'll tell you the cold facts, that if you don't say yes, the town people lose $54 million. And you lose the jobs, and you lose the chance to move forward in Sayreville and bring this back. I come from the Middlesex building trades. In 1920 and 1930, this was the Sayreville building trades because we had all the work here. We were between Perth Amboy and New Brunswick and South River. Everything was here. It all died. Let's bring it back.
Okay. Are there any other comments? Let me clarify this, Bob. Any other new comments? All right, come on up, Bob.
I don't want to get into a debate. Yeah, we need building here. We need good industry. We don't need thousands of trucks rolling down our streets every day like the anticipated motion is going to be. You're a good BA for your industry, but take it somewhere else.
Okay, are there any other new comments? That being said, I'll entertain a motion. Close the public portion.
Make a motion.
So we've had all the comments, everyone has an opportunity to speak on this matter. So now the question would be to what, to the extent that the council, has either discussion or makes a motion on whether or not to consider this, then you could do that.
Excuse me, that's not the process.
Whoa.
The process
Sit
is
down.
the ordinance is introduced, and then there is a public
Once
hearing
again,
on
I'll
the
call
ordinance.
your friends the
That was a
police.
public portion on the presentation made by Sarah.
So let me be clear. First of all, sir.
And the
this
first
is-
thing on the
sir,
agenda
this is not
television
So
ordinance.
let me be very clear. First of all, this is not a debate between you and me, okay?
No, certainly. We
And
can't
second of
debate
all,
because I know how we've done things
and
here
second
for
of all,
40 years.
to be clear to the
You know how they do
council,
things in Bridgewater where they answer
to be
questions,
clear
by
to
the way.
the council,
Would you please?
the item currently on the agenda is listed second. Given the extent that you've just had an extensive discussion on the topic, you certainly could switch topics and then come back to this. But given the fact that I think most of the public is here for this topic, it would seem to make sense that if you want to take this issue now, you can. To also be clear, we announced very clearly before that anybody who was going to make comments, that was the public opportunity to do so. There is no requirement to reopen, to have the same discussion that we just had, to which everybody in the room had an opportunity to speak on the topic, which was announced. So that is, you could do it again if you want to. There's nothing that stops you from doing it. But I'm telling you is that it was announced to the public. Everyone in the room had an opportunity to speak on the issue of the redevelopment.
But not on
and
the ordinance.
So that's, that's where you're at.
I don't understand.
Excuse me, was that Councilman?
I'm talking to. I'm
Put your-
trying to do the process.
Should we go with it?
What we're doing right now as the next step, is it a motion? Ordinance, or is it a motion just for?
Well, there's no,
Motion?
yeah, so there's no action to take on the presentation. The presentation was simply a presentation. It was giving you information. The information that was provided was for purposes of informing the public and the council with regard to the ordinance, which is ordinance 2024.
So this motion is specifically for.
So-
The old business ordinance, right?
Correct, which would be to, the motion could either be to approve or deny the ordinance. What I'm telling you is if you want to open it again, there's nothing that stops you, but
Since that comes out of public portion for that ordinance.
Correct.
Wouldn't it be for the refinance committee person to continue whatever it was, whatever this is, the motion to adopt an ordinance or not? Is that
Yes.
not how it's supposed to work?
yeah, so you have a motion to adopt the ordinance. And presumably there's a motion and a second, there'd be discussion amongst the council, and then presumably a vote.
So procedurally,
And
we
if he's
could,
not motioning, then what next?
Someone else. Well, if no councilman, or council person makes a motion on the ordinance, then there's no action to take. There'd be no action on it. It is listed for final action tonight. So, presumably you could do nothing. You could make a motion to table it. You can make a motion to adopt, and you can make a motion to vote it down. That's up to the council.
so at this point, in order to discuss it for the council, should we close the public session and then have the discussion? Then I move that we close the public session.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Roberts,
Yes.
Public portion or what?
Just to close.
To close the public.
Balca,
Yes.
Khaleesi,
Yes.
Enoha,
Yes.
Sinarski,
Yes.
Zabrowski.
So at this point, should we discuss whether this was sufficient for the public portion for the ordinance?
Yeah, listen, to the council, what I'm telling you, if you want to just reopen it and have everybody give comments again, you can do that. It's not, I'm just commenting and saying that we announced earlier, we made sure everybody in the room had an opportunity. But if it's going to be, if we're going to spend more time debating the public comment, you can reopen it again. If that makes the council more comfortable, that's not a problem either.
For my colleagues here on the council, over my time as mayor, again, an example is tonight. I had the American Legion give an honor guard entrance for Larry Bishop because they asked me if he could do the salute to the flag. Nowhere on this agenda is that listed. But it's something that you need to stay flexible to. Larry came forward. We then did the honor guard stayed here. We then did the approval of the prior minutes, and then we did the presentation of the proclamation. Because we had a lawyer, an engineer, a financial consultant, we had the whole staff here for Sarah. We had other people from the trade unions giving testimony. In the past, I would jump them ahead so that they could do their portion and then go on with their evenings. So we've been at this a good hour and a quarter, let's say, on this one topic. To do it, to get the same questions, I don't see the benefit of it. The thing that I look at with a pilot is, for years and years, we raised taxes enough to meet our labor obligations. Most of the municipal budget is labor, and labor goes up contractually. We raise taxes to meet that obligation. We have a shortage of money for projects, such as when I was elected at the turn of the century, we had a budget for roads of around $2 million, which if we only milled and paved, we got somewhere between 10 and 15 roads done. In the next 20 years, we have done a terrible job on the roads. And anyone that drives around, I get, that's probably the largest complaint I get. And we need a new source of revenue to address that. The other thing is I told this to somebody the other day. If anyone my age is in the car when I drive by Hercules, when I drive by this project, they absolutely hate it. I'm 70 years old. So anybody in the baby boomer generation hates the change. They hate that the trees came down. They hate this, they hate that. They don't look at, this is contaminated property. We could have never bought that in a million years. Something was going to be done with that property. This gave us a modicum of control. Now, if I ask anybody with a family who's 40 or 50 years old, they love it. They love the change. They love the look of the new Sayreville. So old people don't like it. Old people don't like it. Young people like it. And I hear that when people come up. That being said, this is a stream of revenue which allows us to do projects that we have not been able to normally do on our normal taxes. As far as the schools go, I've had discussions with Mayor McCormick. I have, listen, there's no secret that we're doing pilots. I was at the Hall of Fame dinner the other night. The Board of Education was there. I am a very accessible mayor, and I keep waiting for the phone to ring, from the Board of Education, and it still hasn't rung yet. That being said, absolutely, and the governing body is absolutely open to discussion with the Board of Education. It's not our intent to leave them out in the cold, but if nobody calls, nobody calls, and I'm not chasing them. They need to show the respect to the governing body. You know, I'm just not going to chase them. I refuse to do that. So I want to thank Amanchu, Dave Samuels, our attorney, our financial advisor. I want to thank Don and Bob Davis for giving us their perspective. What a lot of people don't realize is real estate is a risky business. And only foolish people think, when I've asked people around the state, including the state level, what happens if you don't give a pilot? And from mayors on down, they say, well, you're probably not going to get the project, or you'll get a much lesser project. So I came here in 1987. Just before that, at shift change, you had 3,000 people working down there, and you would have the traffic of thousands of cars. And from what I was told, it was a challenge to get them in and to get them out. So the fact that we haven't had that kind of employment over the course of my tenure as mayor, I have met with the plant manager here at DuPont, and I said it would be really great if we could get a couple more jobs because you're an excellent employer, excellent wages, excellent benefits. And he said, DuPont has said they will never invest another manufacturing dollar in the state of New Jersey. That being said, you must adapt to the times. Right now, warehousing is one of the key things because of the Port of Elizabeth. That being said, if it isn't profitable, we will get lesser projects. Right now, we have a world-class project. We have other people coming here. And if you think that Sayreville has some magic that people are going to pay any amount of money, and because they have they've been very successful, that somehow they owe a free lunch to the old people of Sayreville, I think you're grossly mistaken. I really do. They don't, and they're not going to buy you one. So I think you need to start getting realistic. Anybody at my age, you know, we had our shot. I'm getting this ready for the 40-year-olds and the 50-year-olds and the 30-year-olds that are starting their families, that are coming here into town, so that they have these streams of revenue so that they can fix the roads. We're beginning to have difficulty with we own our own water department. We own the raw material, the processing and the distribution. And that's going to we're either going to pay more in a water rate and sewer rate, or we're going to start doing pilots, which I've been advised by Mayor McCormick many times that this can pay for a lot of that. Bill, your brother has pilots over in South Amboy that he's very happy with. So, you know, those that don't want change will vote against it. Those who say change is needed, change is natural, and change is appropriate will vote for it. And if you understand that this is a new source of revenue where we can improve our infrastructure, improve our water, our sewer, our recreation, we can most certainly work with the schools on their stuff. But again, the schools have to get off their ass and they have to pick up the phone. It's kind of a coarse way to put it, but I've been waiting for them to call, not because I'm going to make them feel funny about it, but they have to make the first step. I'm not running to them with a bag of money. You know, I think that's very foolish. So as far to my counsel, this is about the future of Sayreville. You could build a cheap, crappy warehouse, or you could build one that's going to attract a world-class tenant, and you're going to need to make concessions. Hey, you know what, Evelyn, you better behave yourself. You better behave yourself. The other thing is, when this thing failed, the Democratic Party was run by a guy who was on his way to prison. So let's not forget that. This wasn't like Pollyanna was running the Democratic Party and running Sayreville. This was a really bad guy who was going to prison, and he influenced a lot of what happened here in Sayreville. I don't like talking ill of the dead, but he was terrible for Sayreville. He was terrible for the redevelopment. He used to go around with his hand out, and he did terrible things to our town. So he's gone. So it's one of the reasons I ran, was to get rid of him and his cronies and everything that he stood for, because he certainly didn't stand for the people of Sayreville. He stood for himself. That being said, I would ask that the governing body look at this as a progressive step into the future to our borough, and that pilots will provide these streams of revenue where, unless you're going to raise taxes significantly to pay for a lot of new roads, new water infrastructure, we have no other place to get it but taxation. You can get it from pilots, which won't show up in taxation, and dimming, it will relatively stabilize your taxes and everybody else here. Or at some point, when we begin to have serious problems with our water infrastructure, we'll have to raise the rates or raise the taxes. Something's got to pay for it. And this is what we hope will begin to pay for it. So that's my input on this ordinance.
Esteemed Mayor, if you don't mind, I appreciate a lot of your thoughts and sentiments towards this matter and topic, and creating the privilege and the platform for us to get more insight, get more details from some of the authorities and agencies that speak upon this. You spoke about a lot of generations as well. Maybe I might come from a different perspective. I think in general, many people, many of us, don't claim to be the experts towards pilots, towards these topics, no matter how long the presentations are, no matter how much information we get. I think most people look towards the professionals, right? Those who are qualified. We even went to an extent of making sure that everyone that spoke gives levels of validation before they can speak towards this issue and this topic. From the Borough Council perspective, for those who represent the people of Sayreville, when we have our professionals speak towards this, more specifically our tax assessor, we have folks from Sarah saying that there was a good relationship. They refer to even emails, but we all know, in fact, they even went as far as saying that typically they don't even reach any type of financial agreement outside of conventional taxes without the input from tax professionals and the leading experts on these topics.
First of all, the taxes.
But if you don't mind, esteemed Mayor, you know, I'm not sure if Sarah has a tax professional, but usually there's some type of professional to speak towards this before a financial agreement is put in place. I'm saying that in our situation, our tax professional has spoken towards this. Our leading professionals have spoken towards this. And I think that their viewpoint is consistent with that of our residents, right? Which is that, in fact, he even had to beg to even be a part of the full scope of this financial agreement and the negotiations thereof. The issue so far is that there are traffic concerns from our residents. I know that this is a huge concern for you as you ran on that for your reelection. I know that there are environmental concerns. I'm just talking about even from my generation, right? Young folks I come across from the Environmental Commission, many other backgrounds within our town, within our borough, they speak towards these things. Even though we have trade professionals and folks I've had the privilege of working with, like likes of Mr. Davis, they say there's no downside, there's no negatives, but I'm hearing from my residents that there are, right? So I'm not saying it to insult anyone, I'm just saying that there are still pressing issues that our residents feel, right? And I think that's the reason why, besides the school, that's the reason why we should still wait further to get more leading expert opinion to say this is the right way to go. Not necessarily from a mayor or from a mayor outside or a council member who is not really trained in this matter. And I mean that with respect to you. But so far, so good. We haven't really had that from someone who represents the borough council that we've paid, that we hired to say, what is your leading opinion on this for our benefit? You know, our tax assessor has not quite done that. I know you're about to speak towards that. If I can get some additional insight from you on that specifically, in terms of the tax assessor's role in this matter.
It's not his role. It was never his role.
So we have a
It was his opinion.
It was his opinion, but that's a professional opinion, wouldn't you
Your
say so?
opinion.
My opinion on taxes is a little bit different from a
Christian,
tax assessor's
Christian,
opinion on
I
taxes.
expect you
though.
to vote no on this. So do what I expect you to do.
Yeah, I appreciate your expectation towards me. I can have expectations towards you. You have expectations towards me. I think that's a universal standard, so I understand that. But that's not really why I'm here, right? It's not really to do what you expect me to do. I'm here really to understand the views of the people and see how I can represent that the best way possible.
Are you living in town? Because my understanding that they found you living in New York.
Okay, and I appreciate that sentiment and that topic, and those who found me. I think that is a conversation that you should continue with them.
Dan?
And when it comes to voting, again, typically there's supposed to be a motion to push the ordinance
We're in the
forward.
discussion.
Right, so that's why I'm discussing. I don't think I've offended anyone
Appreciate
with
it.
how I express.
Noted in the record. Dan?
Thank you, sir.
There's an item out there that I don't know anyone,
I can't hear.
there's an
Dan.
item out there that I don't know if anyone knows about.
We're not voting yet. We're discussing.
Go ahead, Dan.
The warehouses are partially assessed at $16,320,000. We introduced a budget with a 3.9 cent increase that has that 16,320 in it. If we approve this ordinance, that 16,32 should disappear from our valuation, and our tax rate will probably double to 7.8 or something like that. But I mean, I would say we should at least table this until we find out what happens with that $16,330,000.
At the very least.
Donna?
I was sitting on council when this came up for that vote that people talk about. That vote was simply to introduce. At that time, the council who was sitting here decided that the public was not prepared to make a decision or see the negotiations, so I abstained. I think that we did a great job. The presentations really did lay a foundation for how pilots really work, what they do, and how we've worked with developers, and that piece of property was in need of redevelopment. I think we've gone more than over our requirements in informing the public on what this is all about. We wanted to make sure we reached out. We had the right professionals here. They spent their time, their talent, and they're sitting here in the unair-conditioned room with the rest of us waving fans like an old courthouse. I think we have all the information we need to make an informed and positive decision for Sayreville.
Thank you. Mike?
Well, after hearing what was presented tonight, I'm confident that we can do this. Okay, so the numbers are out. Everything's explained. I see no problem with this. We need to progress ahead. Thank you.
John?
Thank you, Mayor. And first, I do appreciate those that came from the community tonight, and those that have also emailed us. Your responses and your comments were greatly appreciated. And as well, Christian, yours as well. I did initially vote no on this project. I didn't have all the full information that could be available in order to make a conscious and good decision for the benefit of the borough. I spent a lot of time working with our professionals, trying to educate myself and understand the process better. And I think I have. By no means am I an expert, and I'm not telling you I am. What I am, though, is a council person who's elected to support our community as a whole and do what I think is appropriate for that community to move forward and to make sure that it is a successful community, not simply for the new families, but also for our seniors and for everybody else that's here already. We have a lot of issues that we have to overcome. And the opportunity of a pilot in this particular case does work well for those projects that we are trying to get done. The roads that aren't paved and roads that have holes. And it also works for the parks that need to be repaired and they need to be refreshed and they need to be made better, including Bailey Park, where we're getting a contribution to be able to resustain and refresh that park, which is necessary. I'm not going to tell you that I have every answer because I don't have every answer, but I will tell you that I've taken the time to be able to consciously look at this and understand it and weigh the benefits. I see the benefits for what we can do for our community moving forward, and it is positive. I'm not going to say every pilot is good, and I understand the process was convoluted. It was, and I can't apologize for that because I wasn't part of the convoluted process, but we are trying to make the process better so everybody does understand it. You may still not agree with it, but you'll understand it as to where we're coming from. And then you can make a conscientious decision whether it's good or bad. And I hope today was a first step in doing that. I hope we presented ourselves well. And that's the reason why I have changed my mind and why I believe to go forward with this pilot is the proper thing to do.
Josh? Stanley?
Good evening. When I started this, another chapter of my life being a councilman in Saraville, a lot of changes that happened throughout my years of growing up and everything else, I wasn't happy with all of them. Parkway entrance, parkway exits, it changed traffic dramatically in Saraville. This is going to change traffic dramatically in Saraville. There's supposed to be another road that I was told that's going to go from Cheesequake area to Journey Mill. I don't know what happened to that. That's one of my big things is the traffic. But I want to take Saraville into the future, and that's one of the things I campaigned under, that I want Saraville. I'm the third generation Saraville, and I have my kids, and they're still going to be here. I have properties in Saraville, and we're going to be here for another 100 years, which we are already. So not every decision that we make as the council is going to be supported by everybody in this room, but I'm going with the best for the long term of Saraville, and I'm voting for it.
Okay. With that, I'll entertain a motion.
So we need to introduce.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Ordinance number 20-24, ordinance of the Borough of Saraville, County of Middlesex, New Jersey, authorizing the execution of a financial agreement by and between the Borough and Parlin Section 1 Urban Renewal LLC pursuant to the long-term tax exemption law, NJSA 40A 20-1 et sec.
I'll entertain a motion. You go ahead.
No public hearing on this ordinance.
Go ahead.
I move the public hearing be closed and the
Take 'em out.
ordinance adopted
Take 'em
on
out.
second and final reading and advertised according to law.
Is there a second? Is there a second? Roll call.
Councilpersons Roberts,
Yes.
Falca,
No.
Khaleesi,
Yes.
Anoha,
No.
Sinarski,
Yes.
Zabrowski. Passes. Public hearing on ordinance number 9-24, an ordinance granting municipal consent for the renewal of a cable television franchise for the operation of a cable television system within the Borough of Saraville, New Jersey, to CSC TKR LLC, doing business as Cablevision of Raritan Valley.
This time I'm going to open the public portion to comments on this ordinance. Are there any,
They have to wait, they're
what's that?
gonna be quiet because the recording's not gonna.
Wait until the people leave.
Oh, sorry.
The audio won't pick it up.
Just stay there for a minute until whoever's leaving.
No? No, Mayor?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Jim Robinson. Harlan, New Jersey. And one of the reasons I'm going to speak on this ordinance, but I'm going to talk generally about one of the reasons it's important that we have real public hearings. A few years ago, you may remember this, Mayor, we lost a very expensive case. Mayor, can you
Evelyn,
have
you gotta
order?
go. Evelyn, you either keep quiet or I'll have you, you'll have to leave the room.
We lost the case. Cost us $1.3 million to lose. And as a result of losing that case, 1.7 million square feet of warehouses are being built on Main Street. And the reason, I don't know if you looked at that case, Counselor, a lot of borough attorneys have. The reason we lost that case was the judge called the mayor's public hearing process, quote, a sham.
Hey, officers, take these ladies out, please. They're obnoxious and they're disturbing the meeting.
And I don't want us to get embroiled in another 1.3 million case because we had a public hearing that was a sham. But what we just had on that ordinance was not a public hearing on the ordinance. The document that was presented doesn't mention the word Trammell Crow in that document once. That was a general presentation on pilots. One, by the way, which Karen Bailey Biebert and Tom Polando worked on 3 years ago. You might remember that. Karen came up and said, we're going to have the, Tom and I have been working on this. We're going to have this presentation. And finally, it came about right in time for this. But that was a general presentation on pilots, not a public hearing on the ordinance. And if this is challenged, that may be one of the reasons, because that was another sham. Okay, but I do want to talk about the cable TV. And for the record, I just want to say this. It expired in 2016. No question, when questions were asked the other day, people up here said, well, we weren't around in 2016. We don't know what happened. The mayor, you were around in 2016. You were working on building apartments back then, I guess. So this thing is, we're now just getting around to it. But for the record, because I understand there's going to be an appeal, there was no 45-day notice, there was no 15-day notice, and there was no notice whatsoever that people could submit their comments in writing. And the pamphlet that I referred to you at the last meeting, Counselor, talked about all those things, even had the sample public notices that talk about how you can submit your comments in writing. So when you have a public hearing on a Friday during Passover, people might want to submit their comments in writing. I think, how many people showed up? Mayor, you weren't here. I shouldn't ask you. John, four people showed up on a topic like that?
Mr. Duffy's holding up 4 fingers.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Duffy. John, I sent a note to you, and I appreciate that you got some extras in there. I sent a note to you that Dr. Labby told me the Board of Education has no current agreement with Cablevision, and as all the cable in their classrooms have been gone for a long time, some of the principals still do have working boxes. The state statute and that ordinance provides that the schools can be added to that list. And I would ask that that be done. You added the park to the list. Can we add the schools to that list? I know you don't answer questions, but they're not on there. I looked before I asked the question. I looked before I sent the note to, I forwarded you this email, John, my conversation with Dr. Labby. I do want to correct something though, and also the veterans were here earlier. I asked if we could have free cable TV at the veterans organizations. I don't know if that's permissible. Got no answer to that, no response, but I think those heroes are entitled to that. I do want to correct one thing that the woman from Cablevision said when she was here on Friday. She said the statute does not allow a reduction for senior citizens. NJSA 48:5A-11.1 and 11.2 allows for reduced or discounted rates to the elderly and or disabled to be offered. The legislature found that Cablevision is a principal source of recreation and entertainment, and that a public need exists, which makes the provision of reduced and discounted rates to the elderly a public necessity that would promote their health and welfare. I'm sorry that that wasn't that that wasn't explored. And 5 minutes exactly. Thank you.
Are there any other comments? Steve?
Yes. Hi, Steve Levinson, 5 Telegraph Lane. I was actually here Friday night, and I brought up Section 13 in this ordinance, local office or agent. Back in 1996, I was actually on what we had at the time was a cable Sayreville Television Advisory Board. I was on that board for over 10 years, and I served for the chairman. And then one year, the Democrats won council and didn't reappoint anybody. The mayor asked to be reappointed on January 1st. And lo and behold, I was no longer on the Sayreville Cable Advisory Board. And I believe shortly after that, it got disbanded. But one of the things we actually fought for back in 1996 was to have a local office within the borough of Sayreville. And we had that put into the franchise agreement back then with TKR. And I've noticed that it is not in this one, it just says a local office. And I understand why it says a local office is because Cablevision just signed a new lease in Gateway, and they're moving their office out of Ernston Road and Washington Road, where ShopRite is, and they're moving it into Gateway. And Gateway, as we all know, is not in Sayreville. So that's why it has to be changed. I request that this not be approved as written and go back to them and have them change it, and let's have a definition of what local office is. What is a local office? Is it 5 miles away from Sayreville? Is it 10 miles away? Is Piscataway a local office? They have offices on Centennial Road. Am I going to have to drive all the way out up on 287 in rush hour or traffic to go change my box when, you know, my town fought for and got a local office within the borough? And now just through simple whatever, it's gone, and now our residents are going to be inconvenienced. So that's my big issue. To go back to some of Mr. Robinson's comments, Cablevision only offers free basic cable to us. They don't offer us anything other than free basic. And Cablevision did, I can't say if they do anymore, offer senior discounts, but it was only to residents that only had cable. Once you tied in your phone and your internet, they didn't give discounts anymore. So I don't know anybody that probably just has cable and is just getting a senior discount. You also had to every year sign a letter to TKR letting them know that you were still alive and that you didn't die and somebody was in your house getting a discount they weren't entitled to anymore. That was something we fought and we never got them to do away with. So every year the seniors had to go down to wherever their office was, fill out another form and hand it in to get the discount. We were never able to get them to give the discount on the bundled product. And I doubt we will at this point with this. A lot of this is set by statute. I understand that. And there's a lot of things that we just have to kind of agree with. But we fought for the local office, and I recommend rejecting this now and going back and getting a better definition of what local is. So it's clear if in the future they decide to close the Gateway store and move it somewhere else, we're not going to be inconvenienced. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Steve, would you be interested in reviving the cable TV board?
I don't know, well, if there's a need, yeah, but I don't know if there's a need. A lot of our complaints now.
Come up to the mic, Steve.
All right, like I said, I've been out of the loop for probably 10 years or so, probably more than 10 years at this point. A lot of the problem is the internet and the cable are actually technically considered different by BPU. And even though we're getting the service from the same company, there's different rules that apply to it. So yes, under the cable board, we had our rights and we had our things, and we used to take the complaints and we used to contact TKR and they had to respond to us, and then we had to respond to the resident. The problem was when internet started coming in, a lot of the complaints we started getting about internet, we had no recourse under because it followed different rules and different regulations. And the laws might have caught up with cable now at this point because internet is somewhat of a utility now. It's a necessity, not a luxury. But at the time, it was considered a luxury. So BPU wasn't getting involved in any internet disputes or disclaimers, and we couldn't do anything for the residents of Saraville on their internet issues. We could only address their cable issues. I don't know if we're still having the issues that we had back then, but if the residents feel that they are, then yes, I'd be something willing to do again.
I'll be in touch.
All right.
Thank you, Steve. Ken?
Ken Olszewski, 108 North Edward Street. I have concern about the same item and the gentleman just spoke about, Section 13 with the local office. This looks like another example of big business and corporations taking things from the people of Saraville, and this governing body sitting here and folding their hands and doing nothing about it. Where is a local office? As the gentleman just said, he made all the right comments. I mean, is it in Freehold? Is it New Brunswick, Piscataway? Oh, wait a minute, they took a lease in Sayre Woods. That doesn't seem too bad, right? It doesn't seem too bad until the 65 trucks an hour start coming from the warehouses. Remember, 65 trucks an hour? I was here when the testimony at the planning board. And I'm going to speak about that the next time. The sham that goes on in a borough. Yeah, how easy is it going to be to get to Sayre Woods when there's 65 trucks an hour coming out of those warehouses? And you know, if you watch the people here that always look busy when people come to the microphone with good questions, they're the ones that can't face the public. They all of a sudden get busy. Watch them. You see them right now. The other question I have is, how is Ernst Road going to be? There's an application before the planning board right now for a pretty big religious operation. What impact is that going to have on Ernst Road? So if you say, oh, well, Ernst Road or Sayre Woods isn't too far, with the traffic on Ernst Road, it could be very far. And letting them take this office out of Saraville and having nothing. We have nothing. A local office. What does that mean? Who negotiated this? Who negotiated this here? Oh, I forgot. You don't answer questions. I forgot. You don't answer questions. Less than 6 months ago, you said, here's our campaign promise to promote transparency that puts an end to corruption and self-dealing. But now you don't answer questions. If that isn't a sham, and most people in this town would have to say they were lies told to the residents of Saraville. Thank you.
Are there any other? Yes, ma'am. Oh, Timmy.
Hi, Demetra Wagner again, 7 Roma Street. My mom just passed away, unfortunately, on April 14th, 3 months before my daughter's due date. She's been living with me for a couple of months. We just had to give up her apartment that was a scheduled move. And she lived in Gillette Manor on 650 Washington Road. And they have a contract. We all know it's a HUD building, and now it's a mix of HUD and Section 8. And it's mandatory that they have to have cable, whether they want it or not. And it's a discounted rate. I mean, I think it's a discounted rate. My mom only had basic cable because she didn't really watch television that much. So she had to have it. I don't know if it was discounted. Maybe that's what they're talking about as far as senior discounts. You know, we have the Gillette Towers, we have the Gillette Manor, and now we're going to have all these affordable houses. I don't know if that's going to fall under it, but we live in a republic, and we vote through a democratic process. I mean, to force companies to give discounts, I mean, we only have one company, and no one's going to come and buy that cable at cable's prices. And everyone says that cable right now is a luxury. I mean, maybe if you have cable phone internet, you need it, because my mother couldn't afford on a senior, salary to have Verizon because it's so expensive. So she had to have Via Talk, which is a voice over internet phone company. And she needed to have the internet in addition to the mandatory cable that she has because it was contracted many, many years ago. I mean, television is a luxury. yeah, of course, it gives our seniors time to pass and watch and know what was going on and so forth. And of course, it's great. But, since when did, we have basic needs in this country? We need water, right? We need warmth in the winter. We need cool in the summer. I'm sorry, but having HBO and it's great to watch HBO if you like it, or watching the Yankees and all that. And I understand in this economy under, the blue administration, it's really hard to afford things. And also going back to my husband is a professional truck driver. Okay. When we go to the supermarket, we all remember during COVID when the shelves were empty. Without truckers, you'd be homeless, hungry, and naked. Every little thing on this God green earth, from a pin to a tree, goes on a truck, okay? And I get very upset because as a truck driver, I hear jokes about, oh, your husband's just a dumb truck driver. What does he know? Okay? He's an essential worker, and he keeps this country and this world running. Okay? And he keeps this economy going. When you don't have milk and eggs on your shelf, and you don't have toilet paper, and you don't have meat, and your refrigerator's empty, what do you say? Where are the truckers? Where are the warehouses? Where are the corporations? Where are the farmers? This is what makes America grow. We have China buying our farms. We have China buying our corporations. China owns America, okay? We need to get back to made in America. Sayreville was known for bricks. What are we known for now? Can anyone say that? Yes, trucks cause traffic. Yes, okay? But at the end of the day, you have food on your table, you have clothes on your back, all right? And that's what makes America move. Truckers all over the world and all over the country. And please, ratables make money. Houses do not. They put burdens on our town. They put burdens on our taxpayers through schools, okay? But we can't stop them because they're private property. And we live in a republic and in a democracy. We don't live in a communist country where we can dictate what people will do with their private property. So I know that people like to come up, and I love this gentleman that reminds me of Jimmy Stewart. And I love Jim because he really cares and he has good intentions, okay? But please don't make this meeting a Jerry Springer episode, okay? I want to be proud to be a Sayreville resident, and I'm proud to be a committee woman in my District 1 for the GOP. And I have seen that lately this meeting has turned into a Jerry Springer episode with people yelling and screaming and calling people names and not even allowing people to finish speaking up here. Please, if you're going to come up here, have some common sense and have some respect for your Sayreville residents, whether they're Democrats, whether they're Republicans or independents, whether they even vote or not, whether they ever step foot at a meeting. What if a person is watching tonight and they're like, I don't want to watch the zoo show? Thank you.
Thank you, Demi. Are there any other comments, Bob?
Bob Egan, 43 Elizabeth Street. Needless to say, I'm disappointed in some of the people up on the board today. You made this pilot, you made it sound like if we didn't get this pilot, we're not going to have any.
The comments about the cable vision.
This is Cablevision? I'm
Cable.
sorry. Okay, Cablevision. There wasn't, I don't remember a public announcement of it being on Friday. I would have gone to it. It was supposed to be on a Saturday from what I remember. So I don't know. What happened? You have the borough blast. You can, when it does come out, maybe you could put the meetings on the blast to let people know when they're going to be. I don't go on Facebook. So if they put it on Facebook, I could die there. I don't have any social media at all. So if you put it on an announcement like you do with the roads and that, maybe people would know. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Are there any other comments? Being no other comments, I'll entertain a motion to close the public portion.
I make motion to close the public
Is there a second?
and adopt the,
Is there a second?
For a second, Mr. Mayor, can I make two comments one to Mr. Olszewski and one to Mr. Robinson?
You can. Yeah, we have to close the public first. though.
Okay,
That's all.
I'll second it. The motion was put up, I'll second it.
Well, no, we can only close the public if you want to make comments. So we'll close the public. Just close the public, Donna.
Yeah.
All right, so the motion is to close the public. That's the motion, Donna?
That is the motion.
Is there a second to close the public? Second. Roll call?
Councilpersons Roberts.
Yes.
Balca.
Yes.
Halisi.
Yes.
Enoha.
Yes.
Sinarski.
Yes.
Zabrowski.
Okay, comments from the council, Stash?
Yeah, the first thing, Mr. Olszewski, I feel the Cablevision moved out of the ShopRite Plaza. Bottom line's got to be profit and expenses to run that size building in that size area. I think there's got to be a number that I can call to find out, to speak to somebody why that building left and moved to Old Bridge. But I feel it's got to be money. Everything resolves around money. If they're paying $2,000 a month in ShopRite versus they're paying $1,500 in Old Bridge Gateway, that's where they're going. It's not as local as it was before, but I just traveled Ernst Road during the day today. I went to go to someplace up the road, and it wasn't really that bad. But yes, you're right when the traffic comes. Then the other one is to Mr. Robinson. As far as the VFWs and the American Legions and other clubs that are having a Wi-Fi or cable, if there's a liquor license involved with that, I don't feel that anybody's going to be getting free cable or any Wi-Fi for free. But I will look into that and see if I can give you a correct answer on that.
Is there any other discussion amongst the council?
Yeah, actually, the schools are in there. They're not listed on the addendum, but they are actually in the contract itself. And Marilyn Davis confirmed that to be the case on Friday night as well. So I'm not really sure why it isn't in the addendum, probably because they were specifically identified, but those other areas, which are usually our first responders, our first aid buildings, our fire departments and the public works buildings, they probably had to be spelled out.
I appreciate that. Might be listed, but according to Dr. Labby.
John, I can't allow the dialogue.
Yeah, and I just have a procedural question for council. I would like to see this move forward this evening, but Steve did raise a very good point on Friday about the definition, and Marilyn was to bring it back because she acknowledged the fact that we probably should massage that language to make it more specific. Is there a way that we could adopt the ordinance subject to that being resolved, or do we have to table? And I'll defer to you on anything, but it is a very important issue, and we should have more specific language. I mean, even the representative from Altice.
And if we could, how specific are we talking here? Just fire.
Well, keep in mind that there's an awful lot of areas and ways in which these companies now allow customers to contact them, right? And I think Steve had a very good idea when he said it could be something as simple as being the Saraville, South Amboy, Old Bridge area, regional area, but something that specified that was more of a radius to our residents can get to. And that seemed very logical from that standpoint.
But you know, John, one of the things we did was we moved the water department down to the water treatment plant. Whereas it used to be people would come here to Borough Hall and they'd pay their tax bill, get their dog license and pay their water bill. A decision was made that it made more sense to put it all under one roof at the water treatment plant. That being said, I'm not a fan of the cable company. I think Steve hit it right on the head there. It's a commodity now. It's not what it was, back in the late 80s, no, the late 90s. I remember Eddie Rapp was the first chairman, and Eddie was a devoted public service. And it was a tough job. It was a really tough job, but it was new. And there were an awful lot of complaints, and a lot of nights this room would fill up with people complaining about discrepancies in their cable bill and the relative service. That being said, it's now nothing. It's a commodity. So I don't think the levels of, they never gave great service. And I don't think anything has changed there. But when you get one bid, which is all you ever get from the cable companies, and they have the legal right to default to what the state government says they can default to. And then they say, listen, you can negotiate all you want, but anything over a certain amount we're just going to jack up your rates. So it becomes a zero-sum game. It is a commodity, but I still think we need someone with Steve, with your character and your skill set, to advise us on it. So please consider it, and because you most certainly have the institutional experience with them, and you can make an informed opinion and transfer that to the governing body on how to deal with it.
You know, Assistant Mayor, in addition to that, I think Councilman Zabrowski was speaking towards the language, especially the word local. And I think he was referring to question to, just for additional professional expertise from our counselor here. And I wanted to know if there'll be additional feedback on that for the sake of clarity.
Sure. So just from a standpoint that on that point, I think there's two options that the council has. So because this has been already noticed, if you were to, you could amend it, but there's two issues with that. So one, I think you have to amend it and we have to renotice it for purposes of, you're making a potentially substantive change to the ordinance. So one option would be you amend it tonight to language that you want, which might be a little hard to do kind of on the fly, but you could do it and renotice it. Option two would be to table final action tonight for purposes of putting together some language that then the council could consider amending at the next meeting, which would probably mean that we're in two more meetings eventually to approve it, because we'd amend it at the next one and then approve at another one. On top, certainly, let's say theoretically, you said, well, we want to workshop it right now, get language we like and amend it. You could theoretically do that, but obviously, until there's a conversation with the cable company, we don't know what they're willing to agree to. So I would suggest that if you're going to change that language, I think the more efficient way would be to, if that's critical enough to the council, I think the better way to do it would be to table it, allow there to be some discussion with the cable company over what we think the definition of local should be and to what extent that they're willing to agree to additional language, and then you come back and amend it, or not amend it and vote on it as is at the next meeting.
I understand option two, but let's say hypothetically we expand on option one, right? Because Councilman Zabrowski was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, he said just to add a bit more nuance, which is maybe extend the language to a few regional towns, right? Maybe if you add Sayreville, Old Bridge, I'm not sure the specifics of what he said, but it didn't seem too much of a change in the nuance of the language, right? Now, no doubt the cable company might look at it differently and it might be a big deal to them, but let's just say assuming it wasn't that, the language, the nuance of the language wasn't that much of a difference, and we're able to determine this immediately, right? Could we not go with option one? Would that not be the recommended route?
Well, so you could amend it. So you could say theoretically, you can make a motion that says local means Sayreville, Old Bridge, let's say towns bordering Sayreville.
Right.
Okay. You could amend it. When it comes to ordinances, the general rule is, you can change language that's not substantive without having to have a new public hearing. This, in my opinion, is a little bit borderline because it has been a discussion point, which makes me, if there hadn't been so much discussion on this issue, I would probably feel a little bit more comfortable saying, you can probably just do it. It's not that big a deal. But this has been a discussion point. So I think from a public standpoint, if you're going to amend it to say local means Sayreville, Old Bridge, whatever towns you want to put in there, I think we'd have to amend it tonight and read
One of the
notice.
things everybody's got to consider. So if we get no complaints moving the water department out to the water treatment plant, so if all of a sudden we define what local is, which is in the boundary and borders of the Sayreville tax map, and they choose to put it by Dave's Hot Dogs out in Morgan, that's certainly convenient for the people in Morgan. It's certainly not convenient for anybody else. But it complies with the boundaries and borders of the Saraville tax map. If it's up in the center, most of the town goes up there to buy something at some time. And how often do you actually go to the cable company in person rather than making a phone call or sending an email or going online? So, one of the things I find, you can take any issue, any ordinance, and there are people that just can't get enough data because, quite frankly, what I always found, they had difficulty making decisions. I don't find it, I mean, I live in Woodside, which is, right off of Ernston Road. And it's a long walk to Cablevision's new place, but for me, it's not a problem. ShopRite wasn't a problem. By Dave's Hot Dog, that would be a pain in the neck, but they would be in compliance. The other thing is, we don't know, they did make the comment to us during the discussions that, it's like I used to say to people, particularly in Laurel Park, they say, we'd like sidewalks. I said, I'll get you valet parking, but you got to pay for it. And that's what nobody's getting, so we could ask them to put, 6 offices in the borough of Saraville, and they might say, okay, and then all of our cable rates go up. We may or may not notice it. They may be able, under state law, what they did say is, listen, we can just default to what the state says we get and just be done with this. We're trying to accommodate. Steve?
The problem isn't Old Ridge. The problem is a year from now when that lease is up and they want to put it in Piscataway.
Okay.
And then the other problem is, under the old rules, if you didn't have a new negotiation, BPU would implement your current agreement would stay. They would just default and your current agreement would continue. So if that was the case, and that's probably what's been happening since 2016 when this one expired, they had to keep it in, they had to keep it on.
What, based on your decades of experience, what's your opinion on this?
My opinion, I don't trust them. I
Well,
don't
no,
trust them a year from now,
wait.
but if-
Nobody trusts the cable company.
My opinion is, without defining local, a year from now, they can put that damn office wherever the hell they damn.
So
want,
let me
and
go,
they'll have no
wait,
control.
Steve.
How do we define
What do you
local?
recommend?
I would recommend you vote no on it. If you can't amend.
Well,
it,
we can table it.
But how do we define local?
Or table it and go, and I was here Friday and she was willing to go back and discuss it with
Okay.
her higher ups. So
Okay.
it wasn't even something.
Wait a minute, that's your recommendation,
Yeah, I would.
based on 20 years' experience with the cable company.
And I would follow up with her based on Friday and say,
All right.
has this,
What do you think?
clarified this issue?
So I think one of the things also that we have is we have a 10-year franchise agreement. And typically, commercial leases are minimum 5 years. So we have definitely at least a 5-year guaranteed local, and then most likely they have a 10-year lease. So it's not going to happen in 1 year. And
Would you be adamantly opposed to tabling it and I'm going on what Steve's experience, which is considerable.
And well, in fairness, I haven't dealt with the cable with them at the level.
Yeah,
I
but
used to.
hey,
But I'm going based on-
Steve, you're on the hook now. Would you be okay with it?
I would be happy to do what's in the best interest. I'm kind of like torn, so I can go either way.
Christian, tabling? Dan?
Okay, tabling. The only trouble is Old Bridge is a big town. So I'm afraid to throw Old Bridge in the mix. I'd rather just see maybe if they can change locations, they have to come here and ask for permission. So we could okay the new position.
Mike?
Okay to table.
John?
Yes.
Josh? All right, Steve? Okay.
Motion to table
You're
it.
gonna be in on this.
All right.
So how do we do this, guys?
Yeah, so we'll just call for, somebody makes a motion to table, we'll have a vote on that, and then we'll go back, Mayor, and we'll
Okay.
get some language. from
Donna,
that
would
second.
you make the motion, please?
Dan made the motion. I'll second the motion.
All right, roll call?
Councilpersons Balca,
Yes.
Khaleesi,
Yes.
Enoha,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Sinarski,
Yes.
Zabrowski.
New business?
Appointments.
Oh,
You know.
Okay. I'd like to, on Sarah, I'd like to make an appointment for a 5-year term for Robert DeWise. Is there a motion?
I make, is that the only?
Well,
one?
no, I have some more. On Cultural Arts, for a 1-year term, Bernadine Lejeski, Christopher Cuneo, and Gregory Cuneo, those 3 people. And for special counsel, other matters, the firm, they were with us for a couple of years, O'Toole Scrivio. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to accept the, not nominations, I always get this wrong.
Appointments.
Appointments.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Roberts,
Yes.
Balca,
Yes.
Polisi,
Yes.
Enoha,
Yes.
Sinarski,
Yes.
Zabrowski.
Mayor, if I could just make one just comment in terms of the, there was comments raised with regard to the public portion on the ordinance on the pilot program. I just want to, I know I said this before, but just to make sure that it's clear on the record that when the discussion began on that, I made an announcement to the room that said anybody who wants to comment on the ordinance, this was your chance to do so. I made sure that the room understood and everybody in the room was given an opportunity to speak. I think at least 1 or 2 people spoke twice. So for purposes of just making sure the record is clear, we announced that it was to speak on the ordinance. The presentation included details of the specifics of this financial agreement. It wasn't simply on pilots. There was lots of discussion with regard to this particular deal. And at the end of, before closing the public portion, there was nobody else who had indicated desire to speak, and the public portion was closed. So just want to make sure that that is clear on the record.
New business, Jessica?
Ordinance 21-24, an ordinance supplementing and amending ordinance number 40-23, fixing the salaries of certain borough officials, officers, and employees for the years 2023 to 2027.
Dana?
Move the ordinance be approved on first reading, advertised according to law, and a public hearing be held on 5/13/24.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilpersons Balca.
Yes.
Polisi.
Yes.
Enoha.
Yes.
Roberts.
Yes.
Sinarski.
Yes.
Zabrowski. Open to.
This time I'm going to open the public portion on the consent agenda. Are there any comments, Jim? All right, being no comments, I'll entertain a motion
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
and adopt.
Adopt the resolutions on roll call vote.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilpersons Roberts.
Yes.
Balca.
Yes.
Polisi.
Yes.
Enoha.
Yes.
Sinarski.
Yes.
Zabrowski. A motion to accept the correspondence as listed.
Make a motion to accept the correspondence as listed.
Roll call?
Councilpersons Roberts.
Yes.
Balca.
Yes.
Polisi.
Yes.
Enoha.
Yes.
Sinarski.
Yes.
Zabrowski.
Yes.
Okay, mayor and council reports, the hour's getting late, so unless you guys got something pressing, progress is acceptable. Administration and Finance, Councilman Balca.
Thank you, Mayor. Just BA informed us we got a grant for sidewalks at Kennedy Park and then progress. Progress.
What's that, Dan?
Progress.
Thank you. Planning and Zoning, Councilman Zabrowski.
Thank you, Mayor. I did want to congratulate you on receiving an award from the AFL-CIO on the Hubert Humphrey Friends of Labor Award. I think that was very special for you. Beyond that, our Board of Adjustment approved 3 applications since last meeting. The Planning Board has a meeting coming up May 1st. The location has changed from the, I'm sorry. From the borough, Planning Board has its next meeting May 1st. It is not being held in Council Chamber. It's going to be held at the Active Adult Center, same time. And then finally, Sarah met last week at Thursday, and we had a first workshop meeting of the year. It was run by our Vice Chairperson, Steve Grella, and the topic was the downtown area. It was just a very preliminary discussion to kind of initiate thoughts about our downtown area, and we hope to have additional discussion as we move forward, and otherwise progress. Thank you, Mayor.
Anything else? Thank you. Public Safety, Councilman Anaho.
Thank you, Mayor. No additional comments towards the committees. Progress.
Okay. Public Works, Councilman Kalasi.
A couple updates from the superintendent, George Gowan, that the May 1st is the opening for the community garden. The pickleball courts will be ready by Saturday, May 4th. The paper shred was a big success, very well attended. The first street sweeping is almost complete this month. So as a matter of fact, I came down my street this morning. Then they're prepping Main Street for the Memorial Day Parade. And the rabies clinic is May 4th over at the Public Works main office. Progress.
Thank you. Recreation, Councilman Sinarski.
First thing is Saturday's the big day for the kids. We have the annual fishing tournament at Kennedy Park. There's quite a few of us going to be there to help assist on that one. Last Saturday, we also had, on the human relations end of it, we had a bias presentation by Juan Rodriguez, used to be a former detective in Saraville. It was a very interesting seminar that he presented. Other than that, progress.
Thank you. Water and Sewer / Environmental, Council President Roberts.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a few things, and once again, congratulations on the recognition by the AFL-CIO. Well-deserved. Great group of people. I do want to state, when is the best time to plant a tree? First answer is 20 years ago. The next answer is today. Having said that, I want to congratulate the Shade Tree Commission and Saraville for being recognized as Tree City USA by the Arbor Day Foundation. They're doing a great job with all of the things that we're hearing about trees being taken down. We are putting them back up again and doing a great job. So we're going to go with today being the best day to plant trees. Also with water, hydrant flushing is almost complete. And Earth Day, there were over 100 people there, great turnout at Kennedy Park. And most impressive from what I've heard are the family volunteers that are going there just to teach their children how to take care of the environment and what we have here. And of course, the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, police cadets, and other family volunteers were there. The paper shred, I understand, had 3 truckfuls, so very successful event. And April was the environmental shout outs for business. So we want to shout out for what people are doing good now because we've had the history and now we're keeping an eye on things. So we have Kenmore's Company, CMC Steel, DuPont Specialty, Red Oak Power, Riverton, Sabert, PSE&G, Quick Check, ShopRite, Starland Ballroom, Wawa, Family Dollar, Domino's Pizza, Lockwood Boat, and Rastoni's, all who comply with and follow all DEP guidelines in Saraville as great partners in our town. Progress, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to general discussion.
Request received from the owner of Garden State Deli to amend his peddler's license to allow the food trailer to be open from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. on Thursday to Saturday at River Road.
I do not feel comfortable with that 2 a.m. Timeline because the park is closed prior to that at 11. So does anyone else have any comments about 2 a.m.? I just don't think that that's the right time.
You know what, I wouldn't mind running this. I'm comfortable with dawn to dusk.
Okay.
I'm not comfortable with the evening hours, only because I don't want that park becoming a hangout. And I don't want it becoming last call. I would make a recommendation that we send it over to PD and have them weigh in on this, because if it does become a problem, they're the guys that are gonna have to answer the calls, and I'm just not looking for that. Great product, great guys, but it's a far distance to have an all-night stand in a public park.
What are their current hours till?
I'd have to pull the ordinance.
Okay, that's okay.
That's
Dawn to dusk to
that's
match.
Park hours, I believe, are on the signs, dawn to dusk.
1 hour after dusk.
All right, let's take a look at that.
I'll have to see what the current one.
Yeah, and Mayor, just for clarification, we're going to put this to the police department for their feedback.
Yeah, I'm going to refer to the police
Refer to,
department, the
okay.
request.
Again, Let's see what they say, because they're the guys that have to answer the poll.
Okay, coin toss received from the following: OLV Knights of Columbus for May 11th and 12th, and Seville Boy Scout Troop 97 for September 28th and 29th.
Any objection? Next item.
Letter received from President Park Fire Company accepting Anthony Pasquale as a cadet member at their March 4th, 2024 meeting.
Any objection? Next item.
Authorization to enter into a shared services agreement with the East Brunswick Police Department to use the borough's range as a weapons qualification, training, and practice facility for police officers of the East Brunswick Police Department.
Any objection? Next item.
Approval of closeout change order number 3 for Preferred Mechanical for the Sayreville Public Safety HVAC in the amount of $2,951, which increases the contract amount to $1,699,589.
Objection? Next item.
Authorization to accept the work, closing the contract, and issuing final payment in the amount of $84,979.45 to Preferred Mechanical. Authorization to extend groundskeeping contracts with Chris Landscaping and Customer Care Services for one additional one-year term and increasing the contract rate for Chris Landscaping to $100,397.
Objection on 2 and 3. Next item.
Authorization to award a contract to Tom's Ford for the provision of OEM parts and service through Sourcewell contract in an estimated amount of $100,000.
Objection. Next item.
Authorization to award a contractor to Warshauer Electric Supply in the amount of $18,436.19 for lighting equipment through Bergen County Cooperative Purchasing Contract.
Objection. Next item.
Authorization to award a non-fair and open contract to All American Ford for the purchase of one 2024 Ford Ranger in an estimated amount of $43,800.
Any objection?
And some.
Okay. Business Administrator.
Authorization to promote Noah Heil to water treatment operator unlicensed in the Water and Sewer Department effective May the 1st.
Any objection? Next item.
Authorization to transfer Jennifer Dushko from Principal Payroll Clerk to Keyboarding Clerk 3 in the Office on Aging retroactive to April 15th.
Any objection? Next item.
Authorization to promote Beth Magnani from Clerk 1 to Principal Payroll Clerk in the Finance Department retroactive to February 20th, 2024.
Next item.
Authorization to appoint Evan Zargo as Laborer 1 in the Water and Sewer Department effective May the 1st.
Any objection? Next item.
Authorization to appoint Peter Margul as Laborer 1 in Water and Sewer Department effective June 1st.
Any objection? CFO's report, Denise. Thank you. Borough Engineers report, Jay Cornell.
Thank you, Mayor. 2 items. First is roadway improvement projects. The council's been questioning various road projects, which contracts have been awarded, what's pending. So I provided you with 2 reports. One is a summary of the road projects that have been authorized based on your bond ordinance last year, summarizes the contracts you've been awarded and also the projects that are being designed. Second attachment is a copy of the roads that are recommended by your Public Works Department to be done this year once you adopt your capital budgets. That way you have a chance to look at those in advance.
Do me a favor and post those on the borough website and put a slot in there for comments.
Thank you, Mayor. Second item.
Let's see how that comes back.
Okay. The second item is a resolution approving a change order for French Street, Albert Street. No increase to the contract amount, just allows us to pay the contractor for extra work that was requested by the Water Department. That's all I have. Thank you.
Borough attorneys?
No report.
Okay, this time I'm going to open the public portion, a 5-minute limitation for comments on any and all issues. Jim?
Thank you, Mayor. Jim Robinson, Parlin. I appreciate that the ordinance was tabled. As long as you're trying to define local, maybe you can take that opportunity to look at the provision I stated where the statute allows reduction in fees for senior citizens and those who are disabled. I think that would be, now it has to be initiated by the company, but I think if you tell them this was tabled, that they just might want to bring that up and initiate it. And I would request on behalf of the seniors, which I'm one of, and the mayor is too, that you do that. I'm going to talk about the pilot. I just want to say this. I objected to the way that was done. That's not the way public hearings have ever been conducted in 40 years of coming here. There was no motion made to introduce it. It violated the council rules. It violated Robert's rules. You allowed residents to speak before you or non-residents to speak before you allowed residents to speak. And residents could only speak one time on that, which is not the way we conduct public hearings on ordinances. So I'll go through very quickly because I don't want to repeat. I wish this pilot bill provided for the connector road called for in the master plan now when we need it, but it doesn't. I wish it did something about maybe the school bus depot or the public works garage over there. Doesn't do that. A little bit more creative negotiating might have done that. Trammell Crow, we know, gave $100,000 to Middlesex County College. I wish they would give some money to the Sayreville school system because the Sayreville school system is going to lose, I don't know, there are various numbers, but upwards of $20 million over the next 30 years. I wish, now there are a whole bunch of things, but I'm gonna try and go quickly. I wish you did a lot of things better on this. The Trammell attorney, Laurel Myers, in an email to Mike Baker said, I was advised that they are doing some additional things to benefit the community, which I think others would love to know about. I guess there's that $1 million for Bailey Park. That's a nice thing. Is there anything else? That's less than 1 year's savings for them. So that's a good trade-off. Give $1 million to do that and save you $30 million over the course of the, is there anything else? Finally, Ms. Myers, Trammell Crow's attorney, writes in her email to Mike Baker, I hope there is also recognition for the union labor, which we agreed to. So apparently getting the union labor in there was part of this pilot deal. So that was a wonderful trade-off. We got a wonderful Hubert Humphrey Award, and all it did is cost the school system about $20, $30 million. So it's interesting. I think what is on everybody's mind is what role that secret 77,000 dark money fund played in this, if any. But we'll never know. But the transparency team can clear that up. You can release the donors so that we will know if there is a connection, because this just doesn't smell right. Everybody in town knows this doesn't smell right. I could be totally wrong. It could be legitimate reason you want to cheat our schools and our kids out of millions of dollars and give it to a multi-billion-dollar company. I can't think of one, but there could be reasons. Stash, I've known you since we were kids. I don't think there's a dishonest bone in your body. I truly mean that. Chief, you were an intern for me in the State House. I supported you for the school board, on the zoning board as a zoning officer. I thought you were a great chief. I have no reason to question anything. Mike, I told you how moved I was by your personal story. I have the greatest respect for you. But you hitched your wagon to a mayor who believes in secret dark money committees that will forever taint every decision you make. This is the first time you talked about Mr. Palando, who I fought from the day he came to power. We never had those secret committees ever before with Palando or any other leader on either side. But now we have them. So if some of us draw a connection between that secret cash that bankrolled your campaign, the transparency team's campaign, and the votes you take like this one, forgive us. Forgive us for drawing that connection, but you can clear that up. Make us proud. Let us know the facts. Tell us who contributed and let us know that it did, hopefully didn't, impact any decision you make, okay? I yield my 10 seconds.
Are there any other, Mary?
Mary Novak, 1 Scarlet Drive. I know I'm not supposed to ask any questions, but are we still looking at possibly declaring the firehouse our first borough hall? And did we get a report back from the engineer? I think it was a month ago. A month ago we asked.
No, we did not. That got taped. We brought it up.
We haven't had the inspection done.
Okay, well, hopefully we'll still be considering that. It's really important to protect our history. And I really would respectfully request, Mayor, that you let people start to ask questions, particularly stuff that you readily have the answers to.
You know, I'm setting up a whole system to ask questions. This is just to do the business of the borough and to move it along. You know, nobody sits up here so that assholes can come up and take punches at you. There were 9 or 10 people tonight that were against the pilot. We get an average of 11 people that watch this meeting. So there are 45,000 people in Sayreville.
I know.
And you know what? I have to assume, since we get a viewership of 11, and we get 9 people that were orchestrated to come out to object to the pilot, is my humble opinion. Everybody else is really quite content. And the fact that the younger people really like what's going on with the redevelopment, and the older people don't like it, I go, you know, it's a generational change.
Mayor, I'm not talking about the pilot in particular. I'm talking about like 2 meetings ago, there were people here that just there was some weird thing that showed up
You know
on
what?
Ring.
I have a whole
They
thing for
wanted to ask
people,
questions about
for
the water.
people to ask questions during the week. This isn't the place to get into Q&A and to get into fights and to have dopey people come up who have no life, and this is their time to be on cable TV.
Mayor, I know that.
to
I'm
an
just
audience of
asking, you
11.
know, Sayreville's been around 100 years and
I
people
get
have
it.
always been
I
allowed to
get
ask
it.
questions.
I get it.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Mary. Ken?
Ken Olszewski, 108 North Edward Street. Try to be brief in view of the hour here. And I know one of the missions of this governing body is they're rated on how quickly they can get the meeting over, not how much business of the borough they get done and get done properly. But getting to the cable office, I would be one of the things that makes the office that they've given up or are giving up at ShopRite Shopping Center, that's the center of town. That's convenient pretty much for everybody. I'm not big on cable. It's not my bag, but I've been there 4 or 5 times to exchange faulty equipment and whatnot. And it's always been busy when I was there. I was never there when nobody showed up. So to take and move that, as I said, no, it's not that far away right now, but what's the protection we have of them? 10-year lease? Ask Lowe's. Ask Lowe's on Route 9 about a 10-year lease. How long was Lowe's there? They didn't worry about a 10-year lease. They were gone. So these big companies, lease doesn't matter to them. You can't go on that. And as far as putting in neighboring towns, Albridge is a big town. I mean, Albridge is 45 square miles, so that really doesn't do any good. But to let the cable company do something, and this is big business. I mean, I appreciate the comments, or at least some of the council people are speaking up, and thank God. I appreciate that. But, you know, I don't think your role is to look out for the financial concerns of the people who are doing business. Your role should be to the financial concerns of your constituents in the borough. So that's all I have to say about the cable. I think we've exhausted that. As far as what happened with the pilot, you know, let me just ask a question about this road that they're going to put through, supposedly the Journey Mill Road. And I'm sure that will certainly help the people in Laurel Park and some of those areas. But so they cut a road through. Where are those trucks going to go when they get to Journey Mill Road? Nobody's been able to give me an answer on it. Where do the trucks go? Okay, do they make a left and go down to Bordentown Avenue? Bordentown Avenue is a very busy road all the time. I'm retired. I have a lot of appointments around, and I don't try to travel at 8 o'clock in the morning. It'd be ridiculous. Or 4:30 in the afternoon. You know, I make appointments for 9:30, 10 o'clock, or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Bordentown Avenue is a busy road. I mean, what are all these trucks on Bordentown Avenue? Where are they going to go through Main Street and South River? I think that's a county road. Or are they going to go on MacArthur and run down Main Street and to the Main Street extension? I'm not so sure how much that helps. Somebody, whoever, it's been a long night, but who said, are they going to be able to lease these places and be profitable if the tenants require a building the size of what's already been built out? It's just not logical that it will work. The only thing, in my mind, that'll work, and I have a little background in this because I managed a warehouse, a big distribution center, not nearly as big as the mega warehouses, but I was on committees to site warehouses for our multinational company. And we use Trammell. There's nothing wrong with Trammell. They're a great multinational company. But and there's nothing wrong with trying to develop a tax base. Nobody's against that. But you've got to do something within the confines of what we can have. The only thing if I was on a committee to locate in there, it'd be a long deal to get me, a long sell to get me to go in there. The only thing I ever heard that would possibly make sense is what the business administrator told us in his office months ago when he said, talking about cutting a road through from Bordentown Avenue to Route 9. If they did that, that would be a possibility, but where does that stand? Thank you.
Are there any other comments? Yes, dear.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Adeline Barielli. I live at...
Can't hear you, Ann.
Oh, okay. My name's Adeline Barielli. I live at 92 Coolidge Avenue in Parlin, New Jersey. The lady over there that was talking about the firehouse for renovating it. I'm a New Yorker and I'm living here in Jersey about 5 years now. In Staten Island, they have these houses that are like 100 years old, and they have a park where they have houses on them, and people are allowed to live in them. And these people don't pay rent or they don't pay like taxes on the house. And the agreement is that while these people are living in these houses, they have to keep up the houses. And if these houses are 100 years old, they have to keep up the way the house was 100 years ago. So that's where their money is going. And during the year, like Christmas time and around Easter time, these houses are open and they charge people to come in and these people walk around the house. And that's how they get also money to fix up where they live. And maybe they could do that with the firehouse and certain places that are that have history in them and do it that way.
Challenge with the firehouse is it's going to take the rough estimates. It's going to take $2 million to bring it to code.
Wow.
And it's the same thing with a Catholic school. You close a Catholic parochial school, you keep it closed for a year, you'll never reopen it because the money that it takes to bring it to code is fantastic.
I get that, but I mean, it is a suggestion and I understand.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, I understand if a place is just so bad that you can't fix it, you have to sometimes just leave it alone. But
Well,
if
we'll
it
find
can, but not just that place, but there's other places too that could happen. And like we have a park in Staten Island that there's about 6 or 7 houses. And those people have to mow the lawn and take care of the area around there. And it looks really great, So
Thank you.
it's just a suggestion.
Thank you.
But thank you. Everyone have a blessed evening.
And welcome
Take
to
care.
Saraville.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Bob?
Bob Egan, 43 Elizabeth Street. I thank people when things are done right, like I did a while back about the police and EMS. I want to thank the road department. Because of the work being done on our street, it's been 2 cycles that our recycles weren't picked up. I called up and they responded. They got the recycle people to come out on a Saturday. Unfortunately, some people dragged it in, but everything was overflowing already, but they took care of it. So I just wanted to put a shout out to them for helping out. And as far as the pilot, I don't get it. Okay, you get a windfall, but they were going to pay taxes anyway. So you budget the money. You'll be getting money. So I don't know what the importance of the pilot was.
Jimmy?
Demetra Wagner again, 7 Roma Street. Chris, I was just talking to this wonderful lady, and she made a suggestion. Like, I don't know, like I forget about DirecTV. Maybe that's cheaper because they are competitors. I mean, satellite. I mean, that's another way you can watch television, right? I mean, it's not just cable. My husband and I, we had cable internet because we can't afford cable. Regular cable because like we're middle class people and I have 4 part-time jobs and he works 6 days a week. So we switched to Verizon. And like my sister-in-law lives with us and she watches television through the internet and it's so much cheaper. Like she has YouTube television. There's so many options out there. I think maybe, Jim and maybe like someone representing the seniors or someone representing the veterans or people with low incomes or low income housing, whatever. Like, let's go out and tell them about these other options. Like, God, you don't just have to have cable vision. Like you could have, internet television, or you could actually go up on your roof the old fashioned way, like I did when I first bought my house, and I put an antenna on my roof, and then you get this little inverter box and you get free television. I mean, I know we went from analog to digital, but you can still watch television the free way. When I was little, we watched TV for free. And I understand that there's games and you have to have internet if you want to watch games. And hey, you want to watch the Yankees, you're going to have to pay for it. You want to watch these, whatever Hollywood movies, you're going to have to pay for it. It's just simple things. Like you have Verizon TV, internet television. Please, let's just spread the word. There's other ways to watch television and be entertained and during cabin fever in the winter. Let's get this word out. Let's educate our seniors. Let's educate our veterans or people in low income housing that there's so many other ways to watch television. And come on, like I try to save money everywhere. Okay, I go to Stop and Shop and I get $30 off every time I go to the pump. I get 20 gallons, I get $30. Let me tell you, I'm a coupon queen and I'm the gas point queen at Stop and Shop. So if anyone is interested, hey, I'm a committee woman in District 1, but I'll help anyone in any district. Chris just suggested it and I'm just bringing it up here. You want to save money? Call Demetra Wagner. Text me, whatever. I'll try to help people as much as I can. Like I said, I have 4 part-time jobs. I'm not a caretaker anymore, but I still have to take care of my husband and my household and my pets and pay the taxes and the internet bill. So thank you and God bless you. And I think this is the latest we've stayed. So we did pretty good. It used to be 12:30 midnight. So thank you.
Are there any other comments? Being no other comments, I'll entertain a motion to close the public portion.
I make a motion to close public.
Roll call.
Aye.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn and Demetra, I'm so sorry for your loss too.
Is there a second?
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, everyone.